What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of The Truth here on the John Rocha channel, soon to be John Rocha channel. We got about another week and a half before we lock it down and make the full change, but I'm softly moving us into the John Rocha channel from the Outlaw Nation channel. And then this is one of my new signature shows that are going to be happening here more than once a week is the ultimate goal here. But certainly we've started a new tradition going live on Sundays here on the channel. Shout out to my graphic designer who took a little bit of my notes and minimized the logo there because it was kind of covering up my mouth, covering up the mic and what have you. So we made some changes there. That is just a dry run at a first video for The Truth. That'll be the new video. There's some notes that I sent him and some things I need to do in order to get pictures I need to get to him in order to get that in motion and get it fully done. Hopefully by next Sunday, so you can have a good video for the show. And of course, we're on the precipice of Comic-Con, which is just around the corner, and everyone's getting ready for that. Although it's a little bit, once again, the last few years, the excitement is still there to be there and see people and see things and explore the floor and whatever and what have you. But certainly the excitement of big studios showing up to Comic-Con is not happening anymore, as we saw like 7 or 8 of the major studios and production companies are not going down there with stuff or not making an appearance at all. With theatrical stuff or not making an appearance at all, which is sad to see. And it's sliding into much more of the TV stuff, much more of the streaming stuff, animated stuff, comic book stuff. So if you've got a person who likes that and that's where and video game stuff, that's where your jam is, then, you must be pretty excited to see what's happening at Comic-Con. But for me personally, I always like to go for the big events, the Hall H moments. Those are like great things to be a part of. Just like it's almost like sports for nerds, where you just show up and you're like cheering on this stuff. And it's almost like a Royal Rumble for WWE, nerds for WWE type of thing. You don't know who is coming out the curtain, what surprises are in store, who's coming back. I think of being there when they announced the Avengers. Oh, sorry, it's a little bit too high. The Avengers, when they had the whole cast come out. I remember that. And then when they announced Blade, which of course, who knows when that's happening now. But I remember being there when Tom Hiddleston came out as Loki. That was an awesome situation. I remember when, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, all the people showed up for that Justice League promotion. I remember being in the crowd for that. Momoa, yeah, all of them, and I've seen some interesting panels. I've seen drama in Hall H when during one of the Harry Potter panels when two nerds / geeks got into a fight over a seat. And from what I understand, one stabbed the other with a pencil and there was bloody shirt. It was the whole thing that went down. So, but also like it's hanging out with my friends, the Geek Buddies and our extended family of friends, going into Hall H, standing in line, getting in, sitting there, watching all this stuff, holding your poop for 8 hours, peeing when you can, those kinds of things. You miss that kind of stuff. So it'll be fun. So the Geek Buddies is definitely going down. Mike and Shannon are definitely going to be there. Our friend JG is going to be there. Mike Kalinowski, a friend of the Geek Buddies, is going to be there as well. I might pop down for a day or two, but I'm not really planning on going for the whole week, but we'll see. Maybe we'll do an impromptu Geek Buddies get together at one of the places, and you guys can come by and say hi. We can take pictures and we can all hang out and talk about nerdy geeky stuff. We will see, but they're very excited to go. I know you might say, like, where you live in San Diego, isn't it easier? It's way more difficult than you think because I don't live like downtown. So where I live is about 25 minutes outside the city. It's still considered San Diego County. But driving into the city is a bear during Comic-Con, and then finding parking that is remotely safe is a danger at Comic-Con as well. And the prices are just insane. I remember going down a couple of years ago for a Wednesday or a Thursday rather, and it was like $50 for the first 4 hours, and then you had to come back and pay another for the rest of the day. There are hotels that valet your car that you could leave your car in, so that's a good thing. But yeah, it's like $80 for the day or whatever. So you're paying a pretty penny. Not as much as you would for a hotel room, that's for sure. And the exchange is that you don't really have a place to go and detox and nap and use the restroom or shower or even work out, which is a good like kind of thing you can do to take a break when you're staying down there. But it is what it is. Everything comes with the pros and cons of the situation. So we will see. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame that we're not going to get that for Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con and what have you. So, but we'll see. We'll see what big surprises are coming. And speaking of big surprises, James Gunn, we're going to talk about that today. He was on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast with Josh Horowitz and offered a bunch of DC updates. I'm sure you've seen some of the stuff covered in other places, but I'm going to do my unique spin on it and give you my truth, or what I think is the truth of what's going on here, the things he's saying. We're also going to get into the Superman box office a little bit later after that. We're going to get into some of the Fantastic Four first reactions that have been filtering through over the last few days. Overwhelmingly positive, spoiler alert. So we'll talk about those. I see it tomorrow night. It's a press screening, thank God. So it means it won't be full of people. It'll be just a few of us. And then you'll have my out of theater reaction tomorrow night. And then, of course, I don't know how we're going to do the review of the Geek Buddies this week, because we're going to see it together on Friday. So what I may do on Friday morning, where I may do a out of theater reaction from the Geek Buddies, Mike and Shannon, that I'll put up. And then we'll figure out when we're going to do the spoiler review, which will probably be, I don't think it'll be Sunday night, but maybe Monday night. Maybe we'll do a spoiler review / Comic-Con recap on Monday night live here on the channel. So we'll see. We're planning on all of that as we go along. But business as usual for the rest of the week. We'll have Spill the Tequila on Tuesday. Jeff and I will be doing a hot mic possibly tomorrow night, definitely Thursday. So there will be more. There'll be content all week here on the channel. So, and I'll of course be covering all the stuff that's coming out in terms of trailers and big news and all of that. And that's kind of why I'm glad I started The Truth, because this will be a all-encompassing show where if things break during the day, I can just jump on and do a quick either 5-10 minute hit or go live to talk about all the news and what have you. So, I mean, I may go live every night at Comic-Con to see what the big news coming out of Comic-Con is, to see people's thoughts and all of that. So, yeah, we'll see. A lot of plans overall for it. So, all right. So we're going to jump into this thing. Just want to remind you all to the Streamlabs and Super Chats are open. If you want to send support as we go along this morning, would love it. The Streamlabs address is pinned in the chat. It's also in the description of this video. And you know how to send Super Chats as we go along. So let's jump into this thing here. Let's get into it. James Gunn. James Gunn was on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, as I said, talking about the DC updates. And some of the things he brought up are really interesting to take a look at when we're looking at all this. The first one that's the big story is that he talked about how he informed Henry Cavill that he was not going to be Superman anymore. And this is such an interesting, convoluted, frustrating situation that is a window into how things work in big studios. I'm going to run down what he says here. Gunn explained that Gunn recalled the moment he had to inform Henry Cavill that he'd be recasting the role in his DCU. We sat down with Henry. It's terrible, is one of the quotes here. Gunn explained that at the time he had already started penning a new, younger version of Superman prior to getting his job as co-head of DC Studios, alongside co-CEO Peter Safran. However, Gunn explained that at some point wires were crossed as the day prior to that situation, as the day prior to Gunn and Safran signing their deal to head the superhero division of WB in October of 2022, Cavill's return as Superman was announced. Here's his actual quote. So we were dealing with trying to figure out if producer Peter Safran and I could take the job at DC Studios, and we're talking to David Zaslav and all the legal people there and figuring out what our deals would be. The day our deal closed, all of a sudden they were announcing that Henry was back, and I'm like, what is going on? We know what the plan is. The plan was to come in and do Superman. So it was really unfair to Cavill. It was a total bummer, but it was a vacuum at the time, and a lot of people were, well, I'm trying to be diplomatic as possible here. Other people had a take on what they wanted to do at DC, and they were trying to force their way in. Now, let's take a look at this thing. So we were dealing with trying to figure out if Gunn and Safran could take the job at DC Studios. They were talking to David Zaslav, all the legal people there, and figuring out what our deals would be. The day our deal closed, all of a sudden they were announcing that Henry was back, and I'm like, what is going on? So clearly this is a studio issue. And this is a fascinating thing when you look at it, because this speaks to the issues people have had with Warner Brothers for such a long time when it comes to the superhero stuff, that they don't really understand the value of what they have, because it doesn't stop them from having so much behind the scenes shenanigans, so much behind the scenes drama, so much confusion, so much frustrating stumbling and stepping on toes. It's just mind-blowing when you look at this situation. So how is one hand not knowing what the other hand is doing, right? And you go, well, we're closing the deals. Zaslav is closing the deals with his legal people, with Gunn and Safran. So why would they announce the next day that Henry Cavill is coming back? And remember, this was all to promote Black Adam, that he was coming back to do a cameo on Black Adam. They even had Henry do a video, right? Remember that. They had Henry do a video saying how excited he was to be coming back to play Superman. So embarrassing, so much egg on his face. But James is clarifying for us what the timeline of all of this was, right? And so some people were going after James Gunn. Some people were going after The Rock. And let's give you a little bit of background on that for those of you that may not know. THR did an article on all of this a few years ago, which I think I covered, or a couple of years ago, which I think I covered on my channel. But The Rock and director Jean Collet felt compelled to add Kal-El to the film after test screening a scene that revealed Soups only by way of silhouette and his iconic emblem, just like they did in Shazam. If you guys remember that in Shazam. Colette Sarah and The Rock felt even more compelled to get the man from Uncle Star back in his superhero role. From there, Dwayne Johnson reportedly lobbied hard to get Cavill back. Johnson and Cavill coincidentally had the same manager, which I think was Danny Garcia, The Rock's ex-wife. And they pushed for Cavill's return. And then DC Films head Walter Hamada actually resisted the idea. He said he didn't like the idea because they had other Superman-related plans in the works. But apparently Johnson The Rock went over Walter Hamada's head to Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdi, and ultimately Abdi and DeLuca approved Johnson's request. So again, why are Abdi and DeLuca approving this without Zaslav's knowledge? Or were they doing this with Zaslav's knowledge? And was Zaslav playing both sides of the fence here? Like if Black Adam had been a monster hit, and you have Cavill coming back and doing a video announcing his return, what would have happened to James Gunn and Peter Safran's deals? And remember, The Rock wanted to fight Superman in a film. He wanted to essentially take control of the DC universe completely. And that's what that's what I'm seeing here if I'm reading between the lines. And what James said here, that what do you say? Other people had a take on what they wanted to do at DC and were trying to force their way in. So I don't know if you're forcing your way in, if you're going over someone's head, pleading to the two executives who could make the decision. The two executives make the decision without the head of Warner Brothers approval, possibly, or with the Warners. You're not forcing your way in. You're proposing something. You're getting it done. They're accepting it and they're okaying it. So you're not holding them at gunpoint. This isn't the fucking Godfather where they had a gun to DeLuca and Abdi's head and said either your name or your brains are going to be on this contract to bring back Henry Cavill as Superman. That's nonsense. What I think the truth is here is that Zaslav was trying to hedge all his bets at the same time. He was trying to have his cake and eat it too. Warner Brothers as a whole was trying to have their cake and eat it too. Look, we just signed James Gunn and Peter Safran. I know the Suicide Squad, all of that, but we don't know what they can do running an entire universe. So I'm going to prove this. Because if you think Zaslav was like, oh, I guess, whatever, you can do things on your own without my approval, whatever, you're insane. So I think Zaslav approved this through DeLuca and Abdi, because he wanted to see what could happen here. And if Black Adam was a big hit, Cavill being a part of Black Adam, people were incredibly excited to see this again. Then Zaslav has more, how can I say this, negotiation leverage to tell Gunn and Safran, well, Black Adam is a hit. We kind of want to keep going with this. And then maybe there's a possibility where you slide Black Adam into an Elseworlds thing, although I don't think The Rock's ego would have been able to handle that. I also think James Gunn's ego wouldn't have been happy with that. Look, him and Matt Reeves work together. They're filmmakers. The Rock and James Gunn are two different things. Matt Reeves and James Gunn, fellow filmmakers, accomplished filmmakers, directors, what have you. The Rock is a celebrity. The Rock is a superstar. The Rock is a producer. The Rock is not a director. The Rock is not that kind of stuff. So and he's an actor. So there's a different situation when you look at it. So I think the Reeves situation, although I do think there is stuff going on behind the scenes with Reeves and Gunn, in my opinion, it's what I think. That's my truth. Is that something's going on there? It's interesting to see that they were playing essentially both sides in this whole situation, because they didn't stop the movie coming out, they didn't stop Henry Cavill from being in the movie, and they went forward with it. So if you think Zaslav didn't tacitly approve this just in case, you're insane. There's no way DeLuca and Abdi would do this behind Zaslav's back. I just don't think that's possible, especially if they want to keep their jobs. And so what's interesting is that later, with this whole situation, The Rock was asked about what happened here on the red carpet. I think at the Oscars. I think Brandon Davis at Comic Book asked him. And they asked him what happened with Henry Cavill. And he said the only thing him and his team were able to control was Black Adam, making the best movie possible, and hopefully setting up a storyline that fans wanted to follow. He claimed that their audience score was in the 90s, which is nonsense. It's 88% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, which is madness to me. That film was so bad. But he admits that critics took plenty of shots at the movie, so they weren't able to continue. Come on. I'm glad that it's 88%. Critics don't matter one iota if people are coming back over and over and over again to see the movie and basically say they want more. But they didn't. And I don't think critics destroy Black Adam. I think Black Adam wasn't a good movie for a lot of people, and they didn't go back a second time. Like, they saw what they needed to see, and they were like, yeah, it's fine, it's fun, whatever. But they wasn't like, whoa, I got to go back and see it over and over again, which we're going to get to with the Superman box office a little bit later. The bigger problem is that the old regime allowed Cavill to actually record a video, right, and state to the fans he officially was back. And The Rock didn't stop there without actually calling out James Gunn. This is what he said. He didn't call out James Gunn, but he kind of called out James Gunn on the red carpet. He said he couched his criticism in a sports analogy that makes sense, even if it's sad for those who enjoy Black Adam. The way that he described it was a new owner took over their team, and even though the existing coach and quarterback experienced success, The Rock is exaggerating when he uses the term of success. I agree with that. The new owners, quote unquote, Gunn and Safran, wanted to go with their fresh picks for Superman. And so he just said all they could do was make the best Black Adam movie they could. So I really wonder what would have happened if Shazam 2 had been a hit, if Black Adam had been a hit, if Blue Beetle had been a monster hit. Well, Blue Beetle's still kind of in the game. And The Flash had been a hit. Do you create a separate Elseworlds universe? Because listen, they want to make money, Warner Brothers, right? So do they create a whole separate Elseworlds thing? And look, James has said, and I'm going to get to his quote, he has said that he is cool with Elseworld stuff. The thing is, James wants to approve what this Elseworld stuff is. I don't think it would have sat well with him if they had forced The Rock's Black Adam, Henry Cavill's Superman, especially Henry Cavill's Superman, and Flash with Ezra Miller and the problems that could have caused, and Zachary Levi, who of course has fallen off the nutball cliff with all of the stuff that he's been saying, for Shazam. I think that would have been way too confusing. You can have different kinds of Jokers. That's different. That Joker with Joaquin is like trying to win Oscars and shit. Like that's an art house A24 type approach. It's got nothing to do with a comic book universe, right? You would essentially have had two competing comic book universes at the same time. Now, financially, that could be great. But financially, it could also be an utter disaster where you are siphoning interest from one universe to another universe, and then people are comparing them, and you're creating essentially a Hatfields versus McCoys, Man of Steel versus Superman argument, because you would have had two separate Supermen, two separate possibly it seems like we're gonna have two separate Batman. It seems like we could that's would have been insane to me. That honestly would have been insane to me. I don't think it's good business practice. And I think it would have sent a wrong message to a lot of creators. And the last people who should be running a superhero universe, well, not the last people, but one of the few people I would think is the star and the director from Jungle Cruise. No offense, Jungle Cruise is a fun film, but that is not a blueprint for creating a entire effing universe, And so I think it would have been a disaster. Again, if Black Adam had been a hit, though, a massive hit, I think this would have been an interesting conversation. And I think The Rock and James would have butted heads with their egos throughout the whole process. Because The Rock's no joke, y'all. I mean, he's sweet. He does everything for people that he can. He helps people out. He pays bills. He's always sweet to the people who are in need, underserved communities. The Rock's a good guy at his heart. But he is a ruthless, ruthless businessman. And he's smart. And he knows, like, this is a guy. It's why he's called $7 Productions, because that's all he had in his pocket when he came back from Canada trying to break into the Canadian Football League. Wasn't happy, couldn't get into the NFL, and had to come back home and become a wrestler. And so he is always reminded by that title of where he came from. So there is a hungry desire to establish himself more and more. So I think it's really fascinating to consider the what if of these scenarios and how what we have now with this, with a lot of people in DC feel this, a lot of DC fans feel this uplifting, joyful expectation of what's coming from the James Gunn universe. I think that all would have been dashed if Black Adam had been a hit, if Flash had been a hit, if Shazam 2 had been a hit, because then there would have been some very hard cuts. And certainly it was easier to cut Shazam, easier to cut The Flash, easier to cut Wonder Woman, because those were all, the sequels were terrible, or the films were terrible in the Flash. And Flash isn't terrible. It's just not, it doesn't hold up to rewatch, and it's not as good as it could have been. And so it kind of falls apart. I rewatched about an hour of it the other night, just to kind of remember, right? The scenes with Keaton are great, but again, it's almost like a meta version of this whole scenario where, let's say, Cavill is the Michael Keaton character being shoved into this new universe. It just would not have worked. The results didn't work, and I think Keaton was great as Batman in that movie, but said Affleck and Clooney, and it was just a jumbled mess. It really was. And so you look at it and you go, okay, I don't think it would have worked to have two competing universes here. But Zaslav, that just shows you, Zaslav just sees the dollar bills, man. He's not out here trying to create some precious DC, no matter what he said in that statement after Superman's box office, a 10-year plan, and this is our vision. You can't say you had a vision when you were trying to undercut your vision the next day after you signed Gunn and Safran. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. So to me, this is the madness of what he was trying to do. Sreyans' Flash was awesome. Well, fair if you like that. But no, it was interesting because this is when those films came out, and I don't know if they necessarily would have been lame duck films if they had been hits. I think there would have been negotiations. I think there would have been some pushback from possibly Zaslav to Gunn and Safran saying, hey, listen, we're going to go forward with this. I'm going to put DeLuca and Abdi in charge of this. James, you can be in charge of the main DC universe. Earth 616, to use a reference. You can be in charge of the main universe. But I'm going to have DeLuca and Abdi be in charge of the Elseworld stuff and this and possibly this whole new DC universe. And we're going to go forward with that. And what would, I would love to have seen what Gunn and Safran would have done in that situation if they had been forced to essentially create a new DC universe to compete with a DC universe that is already in motion. Because if you open the door to The Rock, Black Adam, then you open the door to Shazam, you open the door to Cavill, you open the door to Ben Affleck's Batman. the Flash, all of it. So essentially a Snyderverse. You would have essentially had a Snyderverse competing with a Gunnverse. And I just don't know how that would have worked. The other element of this, and I want to bring this up because I think this is something that stood out to me. And again, you guys know, sometimes I take things and I go in certain places. I'm not always wrong, though, as some of you have discovered. I'm not always right, too, but I'm not always wrong. But I think, Jeff's alluded to this on the hot mic before, but I think there is a divide between DeLuca and Abdi and James Gunn. I think DeLuca and Abdi are mad that they got moved aside for James Gunn to come in and take control of the main DC universe. If DeLuca and Abdi were the ones who approved this request from Dwayne Johnson and Jean Collet-Serra over Walter Hamada's objections, I didn't even mention Aquaman 2. If Aquaman 2 had been a hit, then you go there. Then you've got a whole nother. I mean, legitimately, I think Warner Brothers would have absolutely done a 180, and there would have been a James Gunn universe and a DC Elseworlds universe influenced by Zack Snyder's characters, versions of those characters. 100%. 100%. Anyway, so getting back to, so when you look at the situation, The Rock and Junket, like all of this stuff, I just think it's a fascinating thing. And DeLuca and Abdi were the ones who approved this. And DeLuca and Abdi are the ones who are working with Matt Reeves on the Batman and the Batman Part 2. And yes, James Gunn is involved, but according to Jeff and other places, other people, other reporters, DeLuca and Abdi, Matt Reeves submitted a script to DeLuca and Abdi first, and then James Gunn. So this is a fascinating situation when you look at it. You know, DeLuca and Abdi have made steps throughout this process that you could argue through a certain prism, through a certain point of view, make it very clear in a passive-aggressive way or in a Hollywood sneaky kind of way that they are not a big fan of what James Gunn is doing. So it'd be curious to see how they feel about Superman now. Now that we're going to get to the box office, but now that it's essentially becoming a successful film, it's not 100% successful yet, but it's getting there. I wonder what their thoughts on this are. And, you know, they've moved on. Obviously, they've got other stuff that are coming down. And Minecraft movie did really well. We'll see how The Bride does. Eddington's A24. What's the other one? Oh, the Paul Thomas Anderson one. We'll see how that one does, which a lot of people are expecting might eat the dirt. So it's going to be interesting. And so I just wonder how all of this would have played out if those films had been hit. So would have been hits rather. So I just think it's fascinating. But Gunn went on to say about Cavill, they had to sit him down because they were so embarrassed about it. And listen, I think you guys should watch this. It's about 52 minutes. It's a really good interview with James Gunn. I think he comes across as a really cool dude, but also at times you see the healthy ego that he has about how he views things. He has a couple of, like, I wouldn't say nerd rage moments, but I would say nerd perturbed moments with certain things. And I think the way he tries to be diplomatic about the Rock situation, you can tell he's still pissed about that. But he continued explaining that when they ultimately had to have the tough conversation with Cavill, he said that Henry Cavill was a, quote, gentleman during the conversation. We came in and that was really unfortunate. I'm like, this poor guy, Peter and I, the right thing to do is sit down with him and talk to him. We sat down, we talked to him, and Horowitz asked him, was it on the phone? I was like, no, we talked to him in person. He was an absolute gentleman, a great guy about it. He said, the only thing I ask is that I'm able to reveal it myself as opposed to it coming from you guys, which James said they were 100% okay with. And they let him do that, right? And I'm sure James did that because Abdi and DeLuca and others allowed Cavill, and Zaslav, I would say, allowed Cavill to make that video announcing his return, so he should be able to make a video announcing the fact that he can't continue. So I thought that was really sweet. But here's another element of this. Then Horowitz asked Gunn the big question, would it be too confusing to cast him in your DC universe? And this was amazing. He said, absolutely not. It would not be too confusing. As another character, we talked to him about it on that day. I would love to put Henry in something. I'll tell you this right now. I would love to have Henry Cavill come back into the James Gunn DC universe in some form or capacity. Now, some of you who are the hardcore Snyder bros are like, well, no, they did him dirty. They did him dirty. James Gunn didn't do him dirty. James Gunn had been writing a Superman movie. Zaslav knew he was writing a Superman movie. They tasked him to write a Superman movie. And he didn't want to write a Superman movie for Henry Cavill. He wanted to do his own thing. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. You have a right. If you're hired as the coach and you're going in a new direction, you have a right to bring in the players that you want to bring in. Because everything hinges on you. It doesn't mean you can't use someone else's players who were there before, as we saw with who was it? John Gruden taking Tony Dungy's Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, essentially unchanged, and leading them to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. Barry Switzer did that with Jimmy Johnson's Cowboys. That stuff happens, right? So you look at the situation here. James could have kept Cavill, could have kept a couple of people or a few people, could have kept Gal Gadot, but he didn't want to. He wants to do his own vision of the universe, not Snyder's and not with Snyder's characters. And I think asking him to do that is nonsense, just utter nonsense. He wants to do it. He should be allowed to do it. The idea that he wants to bring Cavill in, and by extension, you could say he said that about Ben Affleck too, that he wanted Ben to come back at some point down the road with the DC universe and direct. Now, Ben has said he doesn't want anything to do with it because it was such a terrible experience and all that. But I think if James Gunn continues this feeling at DC, like if Supergirl comes out and it's good, Clayface comes out and it's good, and then eventually Wonder Woman comes out and it's good, don't be surprised that Cavill comes back and Affleck comes back in different roles. Now, the Affleck thing is interesting because if Affleck comes back, remember, Affleck had been planning a Batman movie. Now, we know his films are usually dramatic. The Town, Gone Baby Gone. What was it? I forget the one that didn't do so well with Elle Fanning. But his films are much more dramatic films, Ben Affleck, when he directs. But he does have comedic sensibilities, as you saw in Kevin Smith's films, as you've seen in other comedies. So wouldn't it be interesting if instead of Andy Muschietti, you bring back Ben Affleck to direct The Brave and the Bold? I think that would be incredibly interesting. He would be able to hit the right tone, having studied Batman for so long, played him. I think that would excite fans like crazy. I think it would fuck some of the hardcore Snyder bros up in the head. And I think it would go a long way to kind of smoothing the divisions that are happening. Now, I'm not saying he should do that. He should find the director he thinks can deliver the vision that he wants to executive produce, if they're even still doing Brave and the Bold, which he claims they're still working on the script. But I think it would be incredible if it was Ben Affleck coming back to direct The Brave and the Bold. And I think people would love that. I do. I think people would love that. You know, I don't see Gal Gadot necessarily coming back. I don't see Ezra Miller coming back. But Jason Momoa is already coming back, right? Jason Momoa, who was Aquaman, is coming back as Lobo in Supergirl. So there is precedent for the Zack Snyder actors to come back into James Gunn's DC universe to play different characters or to have different duties possibly. So I think that would be incredible. As for who Cavill could be playing, Ryan Britt over at Men's Journal, when I was doing research for the show today, I had a couple of hilarious suggestions. Hilarious, I don't mean negatively hilarious. I mean, like, could be interesting in a funny way. He said the most hilarious move would be to hire Cavill as the new DCU version of Batman / Bruce Wayne. Although I don't think that would happen, although I think people would be excited about it. He could play Brainiac or even Darkseid. Henry Cavill as Darkseid. Can you imagine That could be fun, although I do think people are really precious about Cavill as Superman, so I think fans would be upset about that. There are other Kryptonians, though, that Cavill could play. If James Gunn wanted to do storylines about the bottle city of Kandor, which is a shrunken part of Krypton that Superman sometimes keeps in the Fortress of Solitude, Cavill could play the Kryptonian hero Van Zee, a cousin of Superman who has a superhero identity known as Nightwing. Now, that might get confusing if you do a Batman and Robin and Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing, so it could get confusing, but that's a possibility as well. So I think it's exciting to think that Cavill could come back. I love that James is open to the idea, to be honest with you. And I hope Cavill is open to the idea because, I mean, Highlander, no offense, that isn't going to, excite too many people. Maybe the Warhammer project is great. I don't know. Video game adaptations have gotten better for sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to do well. But it would be great to have him back. And again, if you open the door to Ben Affleck coming back to direct A Brave and Bold, I would be very excited to see that. Zeno Hours says Ben Affleck directing Brave and the Bold with possibly Brandon Scalona as DCU's Batman would be money. Yeah, I don't disagree. Kelleran, who is a personal friend of Henry Cavill and has hung out with him all the time, goes out to drinks and dinner and on the weekends, he can tell you unabashedly that Cavill won't be back. So Kelleran would know everybody. Kelleran Binks. Oh, Il Yankee, that's a great idea. Cavill as Orion, 100%. 100%. Remember, these are actors, people, okay? They don't live in your precious little bubbles and on your shelves with your figurines like I have back here. They don't live in that world, okay? They're about working and making money, and they are not as precious about these projects as you think. They're not. They may outwardly say all that in interviews and what have you, and they have to. But they are not as precious about this stuff as they lead you to believe all the time. And I think if the right situation came up with Cavill, I think Cavill would absolutely come back to play a role in the DC universe. It would have to make sense. But you need Cavill to establish this really general positivity around the DC universe. So when these people come back, and no offense to Momoa is not a Cavill stature nor an Affleck stature, but Momoa is good for what he does. And clearly he puts butts in seats because Aquaman 2 way overperformed. So to me, that's exciting. I like that idea that the doors are open. I don't think the doors are open for Gal quite in the same way. And I know because two reasons. One, I don't think Gal's that strong of an actress. I don't think Gunn would definitely be excited to cast her. And second, she tried to play hardball with Gunn with those comments and said, well, Gunn told me that we were working on a Wonder Woman 3. I was told by Gunn and Safran we were working, and those two have denied that. So to me, that was her trying to force a new person coming in to take over a universe to keep her as Wonder Woman. A, because she loved playing the character, and B, because this is probably the biggest character she's ever going to play and the biggest stage she's ever going to have with her limited talent to show what she can do and to get a lot of money for what she does as an actress. So I don't think we'll see her back. But I'm putting this out there right now. I think Cavill coming back is a very real possibility. And I think Affleck coming back. I mean, the way you solve the Brave and Bold situation, in my opinion, because I don't think Muschietti should do it, is that and I said he wasn't going to do it over a year ago. It was my scoop. I think Ben Affleck coming back to direct it. Once the script is hammered out, remember, he won't reveal who's writing the script. I know that Jeff thinks Joss Whedon could be a possibility because Jeff loves to uncancel everybody. And I love Jeff, but I don't believe in that. But that's Jeff. Not that anybody was canceled, right? Because people don't want to work with you. You weren't canceled. It's because they don't want to work with you. That's how it works. So bringing Joss Whedon back from uncancellation, I suppose, is a possibility. I think that would suck, actually, if you're having all this positive energy around your universe. But if Affleck is writing the script for Brave and the Bold, like low key behind the scenes with James, and then they're going to announce he's directing it, that'd be fucking gold. 100% gold. I'm telling you, I think people would be so excited. I think we would love it. And then who else to pick a good Batman than someone who played Batman? So to me, that's exciting to consider and to look at in this situation. So I'm drinking my protein shake, yo. This is some of the stuff that's helped me get down 40 pounds is these protein shakes in between my meals. Quest is does I'm not doing they don't pay me nothing. I'm just saying the salted caramel protein shakes fantastic. Some of these protein shakes are just god awful. They are like drinking liquid sand or sandpaper. So, but the Quest stuff, they do great stuff. Their vanilla is good. Their salted caramel is good. I might try their coffee one. The chocolate one, not that strong, not that good actually. But the other ones are actually. And their strawberry milkshake, protein milkshake is excellent. Excellent stuff. What is it? 1 gram of sugar total, 30 grams of protein, only 3 grams of carbs. So it's filling in between meals. So just throwing that out there. George says you need a big name for Batman. I don't know. Hello. All right, one last drink and then we're done. All right, thanks for putting up with that, y'all. I got to drink those at certain times. So I was running a little late today. All right, let's see here. Is that all the Cavill stuff? Yeah, I think it's all the Cavill stuff. So let's move on to the Batman stuff. As I was saying with Ben Affleck, Brave and the Bold, but this is interesting too. If you watch the video, look, I don't have the rights to the video, so I can't put it up here. Christian can he put it up on Capes and Cowls or part of it because Horowitz is his boy, and so Horowitz is not going to put a strike on his channel. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to take a chance because some of these creators can be quite itchy with their trigger fingers without knowing who you're connected to, who you're friends with, to put a strike on stuff or a copyright strike. So let's deal with this. Alan Ritchson is Batman. I know a lot of people have been clamoring for this. I am not one of the people that's been clamoring for this because I like Alan Ritchson for what he does, but I don't see him as, as the level of Robert Pattinson and other actors who've played Batman, including Ben Affleck. But he was asked on this same Happy, Sad, Confused podcast with Josh Horowitz about his consideration over having Alan Ritchson play Batman. He was asked, what do you think about the fans that talk about someone like Alan Ritchson? Gunn, he hesitated and then responded and said, I am a big Alan Ritchson fan, both as an actor and a guy. I just wait and see what happens. So that's fascinating. I just wait and see what happens. So, and his hesitation. So if you watch the video, he is clearly politically answering the question, right? Because he doesn't want to give anything away. But the hesitation could have given away that they are maybe considering the possibility of Alan Ritchson as Batman in the Brave and the Bold. And I'll tell you why. Because Alan Ritchson can play comedy, as you saw in, was it Blue Mountain State? There are comedic moments in Reacher, even though Reacher's a pretty brutal show. There are situational humor moments that he plays really well. So if you're going with a lighter Batman that is able to have these moments with Superman, a world's finest, where they're both still badasses but cracking jokes or making James Gunn type humor, then I think it's very possible that now Alan Ritchson has stepped into the arena in a more believable way than I had thought in the past. So I could totally see Alan Ritchson being the Batman from the Brave and the Bold approach, which is, a Batman that has connections with like the Adam West Batman. Not that it's as cheesy as or campy as the Adam West Batman, but it's not as serious as the Robert Pattinson's Batman or the Dark Knight Returns, right? It's a different Batman. So I could absolutely see Alan Ritchson playing Batman in The Brave and the Bold. The question is, if I go with my Ben Affleck theory, does Ben Affleck think Alan Ritchson is the guy to play Batman in his version of The Brave and the Bold? I don't know. It could work. Those two dudes are meaty dudes. They've been through the wars of stuff. And and both of them have good, serious, and comedic sensibilities. So I think it's very possible. And how old is Alan Ritchson? Could he have a kid? Because he certainly looks decidedly older than Robert Pattinson, although Pattinson is getting up there, right? So let me see here. Alan Ritchson. Where is it? Alan Ritchson is 6'3", which should fill out the thing. He is 42, right? A 42-year-old man could have a 10, 12-year-old son, right? Robert Pattinson is 39. So not that much difference. But the look, certainly, Alan Ritchson looks older than Robert Pattinson. So I could totally see that as a possibility. So I'm basically saying where I had been kind of on the fence about this possibility, I think now I'm more in more believing that it's a possibility because of the approach that James might be taking with Brave and the Bold. Like he wants to have actors. I think he wants to have actors. And I know he said like not every film is going to have, what can you say? Not the same kind of humor, right? Like Clayface is not going to have the same kind of humor. Well, of course, that's a horror film, or so he says. It's a horror film and what have you. But there is going to be a general overall vibe when they come together because I think James Gunn is going to direct the Justice League movie, possibly the world's finest movie. And so that's going to be interesting to see how that comes to fruition. But I think that's very possible that he would do a Brave and the Bold with Alan Ritchson as Batman. I don't think he would do the Batman with Alan Ritchson. I don't think that Batman would be the Matt Reeves Batman. So I'm just really surprised the fact that he hesitated and politically answered the question. That to me tells me that there is a consideration here going on behind the scenes at all the possible Batmen that they are looking at for this Brave and the Bold, if they go forward with Brave and the Bold. Now, if you watched the most recent episode of the Geek Buddies, Michael Vogel asked us a question, me and Shannon, about, and answered it himself as well, about whether we thought Robert Pattinson fit into the James Gunn's DC universe now. And I answered in the affirmative after seeing Superman a couple of times. Like, Superman has some darkness in it. Lex Luthor shoots a motherfucker dead. Lex Luthor is taking children from their parents and having them be held in separate cages so they can be close to their children but be unable to touch and hug their children. That is torture. And forcing one of them to try to destroy one of the most powerful people on the planet. He's also sticking his girlfriend in a cage and reporters for writing negative things about him. Like, he's an angry, frustrated, emotional man-child who is quite capable of murder. So that film is much darker than people are saying. Like, they're like, oh, it's goofy, it's loopy, it's funny, it's, jokes. Yes, but there's serious shit going on at certain times in that movie. I mean, there's a civil war going on between not civil war, it's a war between two countries where one is like technologically not that proficient and one has an entire war machine behind them. And that's scary. So just saying, there's more to that than you think. And at the end of the Batman Part 1, remember, it ends with him realizing that he has to be a part of society more, that he can't sit around and brood and be negative and, moody and put black eyeliner and paint his nails black and all that. He has to play a hand in humanity if he wants to save the city. He has to actually care about people from Gotham. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the film ends with the sun coming up, with Catwoman and him separating, with him smiling. I don't think that film ends that way unless you're saying that you're opening the door to a much more hopeful Batman. So that Batman, if they wanted to go with Pattinson, I think it's more believable now than it was before I saw Superman. So to me, I think it's very possible they go that route. And when he was asked about it by Josh Horowitz, he said, I've contemplated it. Yeah, I contemplate everything. I talk about everything. But I'm committed to both telling stories in the DCU and telling Elseworld stories. I want the freedom to tell Elseworld stories. And then he mentioned that he doesn't want to not be able to adapt Superman Red Sun simply because it wouldn't work within the confines of the DCU. So, as I said to you, James wants control of it all, right? There was no way he was going to be okay with DeLuca and Abdi having an Elseworlds universe that was competing with his main universe. There's no fucking way. James would have been frustrated by that. And I think he's happier now because he's in control of what stories get told. He's in control, in essence, of what Elseworld stories get told. This is why Matt Reeves has to submit the script to James Gunn. So there's a different approach. And so that's what you see here with this situation. So I'm happy that he's open to everything, but people should prepare themselves that it's James Gunn who's going to choose what Elseworld stories get told. It is not going to be like some producer going over or some creator going over James Gunn's head is going to DeLuca and Abdi or Zaslav and going, I need to get this made. I want to do it. And they're going to force James to do it. That's not going to happen. So, and I'm not surprised that he contemplated. Sure, James is a thinker. He says that in the interview and talking about Superman. Like he initially rejected it and then spent time mulling it over and thinking about how he would do it. Then eventually came around and did commit to doing it. So that's the situation there with the Batman. So we're still very much in the dark for the most part, but I think there's a little bit of light when you think about how he answered the Alan Ritchson situation and the fact that he's contemplated Pattinson. And after having seen Superman, I think it's much more possible again than I thought. And this was his final quote on it, I think, in the interview. It's dictated by the material and the take when talking about Batman. Actors aren't important. And he laughs. Do I ever think about it? Sure, there's people out there I think about, but let's see where the script comes in. It's not the furthest along thing. We have things that are much further along than that. So we're not going to be seeing a Batman movie for a bit. He's basically saying that. We are not going to be seeing a Batman movie for a bit. There are other things that are much further along than that. From what I understand, it's only Supergirl, which is ready to come out, Clayface, Lanterns, and Creature Commandos too. So is there a World's Finest that's being worked on? That seems to me like where they're going, is that World's Finest is first. Maybe we'll get a Batman and Clayface, which I still think is a bad idea to, if they show his face, to low-key introduce your Batman in a horror movie, a $40 million horror movie, I think is a bad mistake. But maybe it works. Maybe it'll work. I just don't like it. And then maybe World's Finest is what he's doing. And from World's Finest, we'll launch The Brave and the Bold. So the fact that he says, there's people out there, but let's see where the script comes in. So he's waiting for the script first before deciding who to cast as the Batman. So I feel like we're less, even though I think it's more possible if you were to combine Pattinson into DC, to gain James Gunn's DCU, I think we're probably farther away from it happening than we were before the movie came out, ironically. Because I think James now has some cachet to be like, no, I'm not going to put him in the film. I want my own Batman, which is what a lot of us had speculated for quite some time. So this is the way I look at the situation. All right, so let's move on to Wonder Woman and his comments on Wonder Woman. Some people there were reports, Tatiana Siegel over at Variety report. We talked about it earlier this week, both with the Hot Mic and the Geek Buddies, that Tatiana Siegel said at Variety that they were fast tracking a Wonder Woman movie. And then I think a couple of days ago, my brother Humberto Gonzalez over at The Wrap said that they are looking at actresses with strong TV-centric resumes like Millie Alcock. And of course, this had everybody going like, oh, Adria Arjona. It seems to be where they're going. And there's even rumors today, I think, that Adria Arjona is in talks to play Wonder Woman. But James addressed the Wonder Woman thing on Threads because, of course, he can't stay away from social media. This is what he said to one of these, Home of DC, who I think I've gone back and forth with on social media. He said, is it true that the Wonder Woman film is being fast-tracked per Variety? And James responded, it's a priority, but I wouldn't call that fast-tracked. Nothing is going to be shot unless we're as sure as we can be that the script is good. This has been the drumbeat quote from his. Nothing's going to happen until the script is good. So he's saying it's a priority, not fast-tracked. That's like splitting hairs, honestly. I think it's splitting hairs. But then when he was asked further, also, by the way, is this true? Is Wonder Woman being cast right now? Right? Speculating what was put on the table here from who is it? DCU Film News, who said in casting the role of Wonder Woman, DC Studios is reportedly seeking an actress with a TV-centric resume akin to Supergirl's Millie Alcock. The source is El Maimbe, as I said, Humberto Gonzalez there, the outside scoop. Now, James responded and says, nope, and I'd never in a million years look for a major role based on whether they did TV, films, or whatever. It's all about the casting. I didn't cast Millie because of her past, but because she was the best one for the role. But we're also not casting Wonder Woman, nor even discussing it until the script is finished. So what's the truth here? I think you'd be absolutely foolish to think that they haven't already kind of low-key reached out to a certain amount of people. I think the truth is that they have absolutely had a conversation with some people through agents, through managers, through friends, through assistants. Hey, if we go this route, would your client be interested? And what would you need to have her be committed to do it? And so I think they've definitely had those conversations. Do I think that it's full on in motion and they're ready to announce it? Not yet. But I think it's certainly possible. And I think it's very clear that they have certain people in mind. And listen, you guys can, Corn Sweat was a name that had been, remember, Corn Sweat was a name that was leaked. So scoopers aren't always wrong. They may not always get right the person who's selected. But when they come at you with a number of people, I think Jeff's the one that broke the names, some of the names that were mentioned for Superman, and Corn Sweat was one of them. Then, they're not wrong. So the fact that Arjona has been mentioned by a number of scoopers, and even rumors over the weekend that they might be in talks with her, I think James can say what he likes about, well, we're not fast, I'm going to wait for the script. That's all Hollywood gobbledygook to say, like, we're giving ourselves time. Because no one's going to give a shit that you said you weren't going to fast track it, and then you announce it tomorrow if you announce that you have a really good director on board, a great script, and a fantastic actress that people are excited to see. No one's going to give a shit. He knows that. So him playing the whole like, we're waiting a little bit. We got to see what the script is. We haven't cast any, we're not casting it, and then we're not casting it. So the fact that he's playing all the angles here, playing all the sides on this, is not surprising at all. And I do think Arjona is in play 100%. I think, and I'm not in any way going out on a limb. Like everyone's been saying that. And the possibility is that it could be someone with a TV-centric resume who's got some strong credentials to them and can carry this role strongly and brings a built-in audience from that TV stuff they've done into the equation. And remember, you've got to have a Wonder Woman that can fit in the James Gunn universe, and Superman is the James Gunn universe. I want to make this really, really clear. Other films may come out that have different tones, different vibes, as he said about Clayface. But if he's going to bring people into his Justice League, those films are going to have a certain James Gunness to them. That element of humor mixed with serious stakes or big stakes. And I think that's very possible. So you've got to cast a Wonder Woman that can hang with the humor and the seriousness at the same time, who feels badass, but also feels relatable and connectable, like Corn Sweat did. Right? I mean, he said in one of the interviews this week talking about Superman, he didn't want to make Superman undefeatable. He wanted to give him vulnerabilities. He likes his characters to have vulnerabilities, right? He likes his characters to be lovable losers who become people you care about by the end of his movies. Now, it was reversed with Superman because he was someone you cared about at the beginning, and then slowly but surely you saw the cracks in Superman, who he was, and then eventually re-embraced him by the end of the movie and loved him for that. So I think that's a very real possibility. So when you're looking at these actresses and you're looking at these actors, you got to say to yourself, well, can this person do comedy as well as drama? Can they fit within the universe that James is trying to tell? And I have not seen Adria do comedy. And that may be my fault. Maybe there's stuff that she's been in that were comedic and I haven't catched it. So I don't know if she can do it. Some of the other names they floated out, it was Isaac Gonzalez. I don't know that Isaac Gonzalez moves the needle that much, to be honest with you. I like that. I think she was damn good in Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I think she was okay in Baby Driver, but she was much better for me in Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. So sure, maybe. But I think you want someone that when you see them, you go, oh yeah. Oh, hell yeah. That's Wonder Woman. Fuck yeah. And even more exciting would be, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. They're perfect. Jesus, they're perfect. So yeah, I see some people saying prefer if they kept her Mediterranean. I don't know if that's possible. I see some people suggesting Jessica Green. Melissa Barrera, you can forget that suggestion. There's no way James is doing that. Even though some people contend that Superman is a pro-Palestine, anti-Israel movement, I guess you can make that case. I personally, yeah, I don't see it that way, but because it's just it feels to me more like Poland versus the Nazis. If you guys remember that history, how Poland came out to fight the Nazis in like completely outdated equipment and outdated warfare stuff and got absolutely mowed down because the Nazis had a much more modern weaponry. But I guess you could make the case if you wanted to. But I doubt he would go the Melissa. A, because I don't think Melissa's that strong of an actress. And B, I don't think he wants to court that kind of controversy right off the bat. I think he wants to keep it subtle. It was overt what was happening in the movie, but it wasn't really clear that this is Israel versus Palestine. Now, for some of you, maybe it was clear, but I think for a majority of people, it wasn't. Ronda Rousey, get out of here, Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey, get out of here. That's nonsense. Monica Barbaro, I love that idea. I got to say, I like the Adria Arjona idea, but I love the Monica Barbaro idea much, much more. Who's suggesting that here? Adit Mahmoud, Monica Barbaro. I like that idea. I mean, having seen her in Top Gun, go toe to toe with Tom Cruise, Fubar going toe to toe with Schwarzenegger, and in A Complete Unknown, delivering an incredible performance as Joan Baez. Made me care about Joan Baez more than the actual Joan Baez made me care about Joan Baez. I think she's an incredible talent. Statuesque, strong, confident, not overt in her femininity or in her strength. It's just there, just matter of fact. And I think she'd be a fantastic Wonder Woman. And I think she'd go toe-to-toe with Corn Sweat and go toe-to-toe with whoever they cast as Batman, maybe Alan Ritchson. That could be a lot of fun. So to me, listen, I'd love to see Adria do it because I love Adria. I think she's amazing. But when I look at Adria who's smaller and versus Barbaro, who I think radiates taller, I just think Barbaro is the better choice, in my opinion. But again, I got nothing against Adria Arjona. Katie O'Brien. I don't think Katie O'Brien is the choice either. I don't think she's as developed as an actress. Although, I mean, people liked Love Lies Bleeding. So I'm speaking from a little bit of ignorance because I haven't seen that movie. Maybe she's damn good in that movie. The stuff I've seen her in is a little limited. So maybe I need to see Love Lies Bleeding, but I don't think she radiates that Wonder Woman energy. She radiates Amazonian energy for sure, but I don't think Wonder Woman energy necessarily. No, Aubrey Plaza, no. Come on, Smithy, cut it out. Wonder Woman must be taller than Monica. She doesn't have to be taller than anything. It's all about staging. Well, how is tall? How tall is Monica? Let's see here. Height. She is 5'7". Oh shit. All right. Well, then how? I think Adria is like 5'7", right? Oh no, say it's 5'7". So they're both the same height. I don't know. Something about her radiates taller. So, all right. Interesting stuff. I don't necessarily think she needs to be taller because most everybody in Hollywood is small. But Corn Sweat is 6 feet tall. But you can handle that. Katie O'Brien is 5'7". Well, Jessica Green? How tall is Jessica Green? Some people said Jessica Green. She's 5'4". She's even smaller. What about Maya Kalamawe? I like her as a possibility. She's 5'7". So I don't think you're going to find many 6 feet actresses who are going to come in to play Wonder Woman, to be honest. I don't know that there are many. Oh, DeBecky. Yeah, I don't know. She is so white. Like, I think you do want to go a little ethnic with Wonder Woman. All right, she's 6'2", 34 years old. Yeah, maybe. I mean, she's a good actress. No denying that. DeBecky's a good actress. She's already played a villain in a Guardians of the Galaxy film. Or 2 films, rather. So, I guess, but I think you've got to go with someone who is... I think you have to go with an ethnic person, right? People like Wonder Woman is white. Yeah, but she's Greek. She's not white. She's not WASP. There's a difference. So I think that's a possibility. Stephanie says white is alternate ethnicity. Of course, white is also an ethnicity. It's the predominant ethnicity in certain countries. So, no, but I think you have to have a little bit of color, right? In the Justice League, I don't think you can just go with all white people. I just think you have to have a little bit of color there. And I just don't think DeBecky is necessarily the right choice for Wonder Woman. I think DeBecky could play a good villain in the DC universe. I just don't know that she'd necessarily be the right choice. Yeah, Ralph says every day I'm seeing Joe Jordan is a great option. She's got great physicality. She does. I'm not saying she shouldn't be. I'm just saying I kind of see Barbaro more. Just for her talent and her slender, tall physique. Well, I wouldn't say slender. I mean, she just radiates that kind of Wonder Woman energy. So, ain't nothing wrong with Asia Arjona. Let me just say that right now. But yeah, I mean, so that's the thoughts I have with that. But clearly, James is saying that things like, hold on, we're going to wait for a script. Don't rush it. So we'll see what happens with that. We got a little more James Gunn news to finish off this thing. He was talking about lanterns and about the grounded approach with lanterns. I think it's an interesting quote. We're looking forward to this coming out. It's intended to be released around the same time as Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which makes me think that they will cameo in that in some way, or something that had something with lanterns will be connected to Supergirl, because Supergirl's out in space, even though this is going to be grounded. Gunn was asked what he meant by grounded, whether or not this means that audiences will see Hal and John donning traditional superhero costumes, Jon Stewart. He said, well, I don't want to give away all that stuff. I think grounded, just like if Green Lanterns were real, what the F would they be and how would they be? I was thinking about it the other morning. The thing that keeps getting out is that it's a terrestrial story. And I'm like, yeah, because it's on Earth. The story takes place on Earth. Everybody is like, we don't want to see Earth. They're from outer space. They fly with rings. I'm like, yeah, they're on Earth for the story, like most Green Lantern stories. They're terrestrial bound. It's not in outer space. It's not in outer space. We don't have 1,000 Green Lanterns or any of that stuff. So there's no Green Lantern Corps, it seems like what he's saying. We don't have 1,000 Green Lanterns or any of that stuff. It's a grounded story that's being told through another lens in a way that's really, it's an HBO series, and it's going to be an HBO series. I'm happy with that, and I love the script. So he stopped himself from saying too much, because he probably already said too much by saying, yeah, we're not going into space. There's not going to be a lot of Green Lanterns in this. And the story is definitely grounded because it's an HBO series. Now, there have been rumors that have come out that HBO has been turning down some of these DC suggestions for shows to be on their streaming service because HBO has a certain, HBO Max, I guess, has a certain level of quality that they like to put up as their main shows. Like the Penguin qualified for that. I imagine Lanterns qualifies for that. And I think DeLuca and Abdi are more in charge of that as well. So this may be another echo of the possible passive-aggressive feud between the two of them that I think is happening. But I'm okay with this. I don't need to see Green Lantern like flying. How many times did Green Lantern fly into space in Superman? He didn't. He used his ring, but it was an earthbound story. Yeah, there were kaijus. Yes, there were things of that nature, but like it's an earthbound story. So I think it's going to work just fine. And if you want to see the Guardians of Oa and you want to see all the other lanterns, I think that's for down the road. Again, you don't want to blow your entire wad right off the bat. You want to, if you have confidence in this supposed 10-year plan copyrighted by Kevin Feige, then you want to make sure you are laying the seeds for stuff that's coming, getting the audience excited, but delivering good product so the audience keeps sticking around to see what you got. So not only do you have to lay a little bit of mystery so they stick around, you also have to deliver good quality. And the way you do good quality is you understand the limits of the project that you're doing, right? Okay, lanterns. We're going to do this. We're going to keep it earthbound because we're not going to spend like $1 billion to make this show, or $500,000, or $500 million rather than $500 million to make this show. We got to keep it chill. We're going to cast good actors, deliver complex performances, layered performances. And we're going to get attention for the DC universe to show we can do more than just the fun, playful nature of Superman, even though there is some darkness in that movie. We can also do this kind of stuff, more serious fare when we need to. So I think that's a very real possibility for what's going on here. So, and I liked it. I liked what he had to say. He did give an interview with, he also spoke about other directors that he wants to bring into the DCU. And he mentioned Ryan Coogler again. And he mentioned Matt Reeves, which you're like, you want to bring him into the DCU, Matt Reeves? Matt Reeves is already doing stuff in the DC, maybe not the DCU. But I would be shocked if Matt Reeves goes 100% under James Gunn's authority to go and do something in the DCU. I'd be very surprised by that. And then he mentioned Greta Gerwig. I think Greta Gerwig doing a Wonder Woman movie would be really interesting, especially considering what she did with Barbie. I think that could be fascinating. Not that I know that Greta could do action, but you never know. He said, I love the people that are out there making pop movies that are they're making big movies that still have themselves in it. So I really love people that are taking risks in the area of spectacle film, because most of the stuff out there is not a risk. He went on to say that, quote, big popcorn movies are too often boring when they feel like they're all too similar to each other. He goes, I love disposable stuff, but let's make it good disposable. I love big popcorn movies, but it just gets to be boring when they're all the same. And of course, this isn't the only time he's talked about Coogler. He mentioned Coogler recently to reflect on the Black Panther premiere and the excitement over the film. So I think it's very possible that you get Coogler in the DC universe. Once he finishes up what he has to do with Black Panther. I mean, listen, a Ryan Coogler directing Justice League movie, that would send me into the stratosphere. I mean, I was thinking too small with him executive producing a Mr. Terrific series. And maybe he does that too. But if you're not going to have James direct Justice League, and certainly he has a lot of respect for Coogler, mentioning him multiple times. I mean, Ryan Coogler directed, executive produced, co-written with James Gunn Justice League. That's putting your balls out there, for lack of a better term. That's a fucking power move, honestly. And as I have always said and suspect, this kind of rivalry between Feige and Gunn, what would like establish your power, or the shifting of the dynamics and power, than grabbing one of his crown jewels from his side of the fence and bring him over to your side of the fence. So that could be interesting. I'd be down with that. All right, then talking to Kyle Buchanan in the New York Times, he was talking about Superman. He was talking about Lex Luthor. And when talking about Superman, he says, eventually you did decide to work on Superman, but this was before you took over DC Studios. Once you accept the studio gig, did the way you conceived the film change? He said, no, it didn't change. It just became more important and carried more pressure. It was one of the hardest times of my life because I wrote Superman and then I did everything I could to finish writing Peacemaker before I started heavy pre-production on Superman. We went away for New Year's Eve to Hawaii with all of our friends. And I literally just sat in the hotel room the whole time writing Peacemaker. Jennifer Holland was like, you've got to come out. I'm like, do you want me to make your TV show or not? What did you anticipate the studio gig would be like? Ask him about taking over DC. He said, I knew it was going to be rough going in the early stages. For a while, I tried to sit in on all the meetings and things like that, and it killed my creative brain. It does not suit me, so I had to go to David Zaslav and say, listen, I'm so busy all the time trying to create this stuff. And I work weird hours, and especially when I'm writing, my brain is a total mess, and it just kills me going through these things. Luckily, he understood that. So now Peter jumps on that grenade for me. And look, we said that from the beginning, Jeff and I. Even when I floated the idea, not even thinking it was going to happen, the James Gunn stuff, I floated that idea and it came to fruition, right? But we both felt that James Gunn is not going to sit in there deciding what goes in the parks at DC or what the campaign of this stuff is in terms of like, well, use this on the lunch boxes and use this in the sandwiches and it's just not, that's not James Gunn. He's a creative. And so it was smart to hire him and Peter Safran because then Safran handles all that stuff. And James probably has implicit trust in Safran to make the right moves here. And if anything happens between these guys, it'll be because Safran made a move that James didn't like. And they've said that they've had disagreements in the past, but it'll be something pretty big that will end up kind of undercutting James at some point down the road, if that happens. But yeah, James is never going to be one. So when you say he runs the DC studios, he's running the creative side of things. He is not fully running DC studios, right? And him and Peter Safran, it has to be clear they're the co-runners of the situation. And I think he overrides Peter. I think he's given a couple of quotes recently where he said, like, Peter didn't like it, but I did it anyway. So it's very clear that when it comes to the creative side of things, he is in control of that. Peter is much more in control of the business side of things, the minutia of being a studio head and all you have to do with the brands. That makes all the sense. And when talking about Luthor, he says, one person who decidedly doesn't need Superman's Lex Luthor. I was surprised at first that he has so many people working with him who agree that Superman should be killed. That's what Kyle Buchanan asked. And James said, but also imagine if an alien came to our planet. If you don't think, people would think we've got to kill that guy. There would definitely be a faction of people that are like, this is a total danger. I don't trust that guy. Yeah, we see that now. In Lex's case, and I love the character of Lex, he is somebody who is the smartest person in the world. Then this guy comes along wearing a clown costume, in Lex's point of view, who's incredibly handsome and has a cocky grin. Suddenly, this guy's the greatest guy in the world. It's not Lex Luthor, it's Superman. And Luthor took that and rationalized that he's protecting humanity because he's going to kill this guy, and that his jealousy is a God-given calling to do something. He's just totally manipulated the way his feelings work to rationalize his ill behavior, but I also get it. He doesn't want to be obsolete. Now, I think this is a really strong commentary. When you look at the Lex Luthor, this line here, he's totally, Luthor took that and rationalized that he's protecting humanity because he's going to kill this guy, and that his jealousy is a God-given calling to do something. He's just totally manipulated the way his feelings work to rationalize his ill behavior, but I also get it. He doesn't want to become obsolete. I think it's a very important commentary because I think this is where he based Lex Luthor on what's going on in our world today. 100%, I think the MAGA movement came to be because people felt that they were tired of being blamed for stuff. They didn't want to accept the responsibility of it anymore, and they lashed out. They were frustrated with their lives. They needed a boogeyman to blame, and they needed someone to come in and say, well, God is with me. I have religion, the evangelical leaders. It's okay for you to be racist. It's okay for you to be sexist. It's okay for you to tell the jokes at other people's expenses that you want to tell, mentally handicapped jokes, LGBTQ plus jokes, all of this stuff. That's what he said. And they rationalize this. And what they're doing to immigrants now is you see them rounding them up and putting them in pseudo concentration camps, all because they're trying to clean up the country from the criminals. Never mind that, it's only like 10, 15% of the people they've actually arrested are criminals, but it's this thing, and everything always has the God stuff above it. All these people are like, God has chosen Trump. God saved Trump from that assassination attempt and saved his ear and all of this nonsense because he's got to save our country. It's the same thing that he's talking about here, right? He's going to kill. His jealousy is a God-given calling to do something. And he said people would, if they saw an alien come in, they would question it. They've got to kill that guy. And a significant part of people would see this belief we have that if Superman showed up, we as a society would be like, thanks for being here, is nonsense. Clearly, from what we see in our world today, a large majority of people would not be happy with a foreign alien from another planet coming down to protect our country and relying on that person, because there would be healthy skepticism on both sides. What happens if Superman turns MAGA? What happens if Superman goes ultra liberal? Like it would be absolutely, if he's this powerful, where not even nuclear weapons can do a full amount of damage on the guy, it would obviously cause skepticism because human beings are naturally scared, skeptical people. And if you see things that are overwhelming, intimidating, powerful, there is a feeling that you feel like it's going to come after you at some point. So I think this is an important thing in the way he's saying it. The fact that Luthor took this, rationalized it in his mind, which I think a lot of people do, using God to claim that they are God-given or God-sent or that God is speaking to them and all of that. He manipulated the way his feelings work to rationalize obey. And that's what people do sometimes. People take the thing, well, this must be the right thing to do. And the things I'm doing are okay because the overall purpose is to clean the country, is to arrest all the criminals who are supposedly raping everybody and killing everybody, which is such a small percentage, whatever. Well, we have to do this because we are God's chosen people. God has chosen America. Therefore, we are okay to do these kinds of horrible things to human beings, to God's creatures, because they cross some imaginary line, quote unquote, illegally. We are okay to do that. And I think that's the dangerous thing that we're seeing happening. And so I think this is an interesting way to look at it. And he doesn't want to be obsolete. And I know there were a lot of people that when Obama got elected, you saw that Tea Party thing. You saw there were large contingents of white people on the Republican side of things who felt like they were going to get steamrolled by this, what they called the black people of color agenda, the LGBTQ plus agenda, right? We just read this week about the dude who moved his family out of America because they didn't want him to be indoctrinated into the LGBTQ plus mentality. And now he's going to have to fight on the front lines in the Russia war versus Ukraine. But like, you see that kind of stuff. And so they have that in their minds and they thought they were going to become obsolete. And that is the foundation of why we have the movement we have now, which is sad to see. And I do think at the end, giving Luthor those emotions at the end, I think was really powerful for the movie. It made me slightly sympathetic to Luthor because he's kind of a tragic figure. Even though he does pretty horrible shit, you see at the end that he's doing this stuff because Superman reminds him of how weak he is. And because he's clearly a person who's a man-child and is probably a state of arrested development, hasn't done any work on himself mental health-wise or therapy-wise. Instead of seeing this person as a hero, he sees this person as a threat to his ego, to his existence, to his strength, to his power. And through the whole movie, isn't he brains over brawn? And in the end, even Superman gets the best of him in the brains department by making that move. So these are the things you see. And I think they're really important, smart, subtle decisions that Gunn made with the movie, and him talking about them more out loud, I think is smart. So that's what I think that's the truth that I'm looking at there. And then he's asked about his own fame, and he says, how do you feel about your own fame? You've been front and center during this press tour. You get recognized a lot. He goes, yeah, always. And since the white hair has come, I get recognized even more. And then he's asked, is that kind of fame something you wanted when you were younger? He said, hugely. I'm getting what I wanted all those years, but my attitude toward it has changed. I come from a very dysfunctional family, and I think I wanted to be famous so I could find a way that people would love me. Like a lot of creatives have that as a foundational piece of who they are. I know I can speak to you from my own personal experience. Me acting was so that I could feel that on the stage, right? I wanted to feel that. I wanted to feel the acceptance. Not that my parents didn't love me. They did. I just wasn't always loved in the way that made sense to me. And so I found that and being a kid who was bullied, being a fat kid for a majority of my life with a bowl haircut, well, not majority, but for a majority of my formative years with a bowl haircut, who was beat up all the time up until I was 15 years old. I mean, from like 6, 7, 8 years old up until I was 15, I was beat up a lot by bullies. Just for being Latino, for being fat, for not being attractive, for having a terrible haircut, for not dressing cool, any number of reasons. I mean, bullies would chase me into my soccer practice. The one place I would have that was solace to escape from all the madness, they would wait for me outside. I mean, I had a bully punch me in the face one time because I was walking to go pick up my sister from elementary school. I used to walk and pick up my sister from elementary school to make sure she was safe. Because I would get home from high school and then walk over. The guy, I used to take a shortcut through the back fences of the yards. Well, this guy apparently had scouted me out. His name is Wade. I'm not going to say his last name because I don't want any kind of issues. But it was in Dale City. And this sack of shit waited for me out behind a fence. And as soon as I came around the corner, he just clocked me in front of his buddies. They were giggling and laughing. And I'm just sitting there in just incredible because this dude would lift it. He was big. He was a big guy. He was like 2 or 3 years older than me. Kicked I just punched him so fucking hard. And so I had to go pick up my sister with this. Well, my sister cried all the way home for me, because she saw me in pain. I wasn't crying. I was trying to stay strong, stay tough for her. That's the Latino in me. But yeah, I experienced that. And so the attitude that I understand, like this, you develop that sense of being unwanted because of things that happen outside your home and sometimes inside your home. And so I think a lot of creatives have that as a foundational piece of who they are. So some people get mad at me. They're like, oh, you're so aggressive. You're so this or that. It's because I won't ever let anyone bully me ever again. And if I sense you're bullying me, I will absolutely come after you. And some people are like, oh, you're bullying these people. Fuck no. I'm fighting back and I'm giving you the same energy you're giving me. Now, sometimes I'm wrong and I admit when I'm wrong. And certainly it's because I have that overdeveloped sense of defending myself because of things that I've experienced. But I'm not always wrong. I'm not usually wrong in those situations. And when I am, I absolutely apologize. But it's from that place. And I've dealt with a lot of it through therapy and whatever, but it does occasionally come out because some people say the most horrible shit to you on social media, on the internet, on YouTube comment threads, like pretty horrible, toxic, vile, personal shit. And then when you deliver the same energy back to them, they get all fucking offended and claim you're bullying them. And it's like, man, get out of here. So anyway, I get that situation, like the desire to be famous because you want that attention. And he said, over the years, I've learned it doesn't make you feel that. It just makes you feel worse. You get a lot of attention. It can be invigorating, but it also doesn't feel like anything. Yes, because you haven't fixed the foundational problem of why you need that attention, right? So I discovered that but also I started to discover ways in which I was loved by other people, especially by my wife, by my friends, family, and colleagues. And a lot of it happened after I was fired. All the people that came to support me when I was at my lowest after Guardians and feeling that love really filled a hole I had in my life that made me try to get attention from people I don't know. I've gotten into the place now where I really am focused on making movies. And once it's done, it has nothing to do with me. I like the people like the movie, but that's not what it's about for me. It used to be I was trying to say, love me, love me, love me. But now I get my love from my actual dog, not from people loving crypto. But listen, I like that I get a better seat at the restaurant. That's nice. I like that I don't have to stand in too many lines. That's nice. But fame doesn't really help you much beyond those two things. So yeah, I think it's a really good answer. And you can call it a self-serving answer. And I see some people who've done that, but I think it's actually pretty, how can I say this? An answer born of therapy. Like you realize like, hey, getting strangers to like me is not what it's all about. I've got to look past that. I got to focus on the love I have in my life and then creating the best work that I can create, regardless of how people are going to receive it. Right. And I think that's an important lesson as we leave the James Gunn section of this show for people to take into their own lives right now. And I have to remind myself all the time when I look at my YouTube stuff, it's like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Are you proud of the shows you're doing? Are you working hard to get them out there? Yes. So the fact that I don't have like 100,000 or 1 million subscribers or whatever, that's okay. I'm building the way I want to build, the way I'm comfortable building, and I'm happy doing that. I don't need to beg people, and I don't need to get their approval, right? It's a really hard thing to break through. I encourage all of you to find ways to break through all that. You are absolutely fine the way you are. And if there are things that you are not happy with in your life or not happy that things are going, you've got to step up and do the work to figure out what those things are. Be strong enough to take a hard look at yourself and own up to the shortcomings you have and change that because you want to live a better life. It's always up to the person, right? No one can make you do a damn thing. You can have all the interventions, all the stuff you want. It isn't until the person actually reacts to it and actually knows it's time to make a change that they make a change. And so I hope any of you who are maybe on the fence about it will find the strength to do it because you can live a happier life. Listen, for all the occasional skirmishes I get into online, I have a pretty happy life. You know, I'm very happy after everything happened with Collider. I really am very fortunate the way I ended up with all the shrinking and the firing and all these outlets, and then people having to do what these outlets tell them to do, write what they tell them to write, have points of views that they tell them to have. And these people have become dependent on these 6-figure salaries. I'm very happy I don't live that life. You know, I've built my own thing. And I'm happy. I'm happy with my lady. I'm happy with where we live, you know. So things have worked out. I don't think it would have happened if I hadn't done the hard work and the therapy work. So I can't encourage you all to do that enough. Now let's move on to the box office with Superman here. These are the numbers that have popped up this morning. These numbers might change by the end of the day, but not too much. But Superman here. Oh yeah, let me put this up here so you guys can go along. Here's Superman. He's smiling and should be happy with the box office here. Buoyed by strong word of mouth and reviews, Superman declined a less than expected 54% to $57.2 million for a pleasing 10-day domestic total tally of $235 million through Sunday. That's a narrow decline for the struggling superhero genre. Overseas, where Superman has always faced challenges, the film earned another $45.2 million for an international tally of $171.8 million and $406.8 million globally in what Hollywood Reporter is calling a major win for DC and Warner Brothers, which has passed up Disney to rank number one in domestic market share for the year to date. Wow, I'm sure that's because of Minecraft as well. And a little bit more on this. It's in only its second weekend, Superman has already passed up the entire lifetime run of Marvel's Thunderbolts, which topped out at $383 million. And it should, by the way, it's Superman. And it's only days away from overtaking Marvel's other 2025 entry, Captain America: Brave New World, which earned only $415 million worldwide. Marvel hopes to begin to turn its fortunes around when Fantastic Four hits theaters this week, from now on July 25th. That means Superman only has a few days left to itself before it faces direct competition. In addition to losing IMAX screens and other premium large format screens of Fantastic Four, which is now tracking to open between $130 to $140 million domestically. It had been 1 to 110 over the weekend. Now, a few days ago. Now over the weekend, it's kind of jumped up to 130, 140. So I think these are good numbers. Listen, I've been one of these people that's like, last week, right? We debated whether the box office was good for Superman or not. $400 million in 10 days. I kind of feel, or 2 weeks rather, I kind of feel like that's not a bad thing. And I think that's a pretty good sign, $400 million. $406 million. I think that's what I said, MK Songbird. Yeah, $406.8 million is what I said. That's what it is worldwide. So pretty amazing stuff for Superman, I think. In 2 weeks to get $406 million. And I don't think it's slowing down. I think I think the Fantastic Four, Jurassic World Rebirth, even F1, which is a good Warner Brothers release as well through Apple, that's almost at $500 million globally. I think, what's F1 at right now? Bing, 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 bing. F1 is at 460 at the worldwide box office over the weekend. That's pretty amazing. Jurassic World Rebirth has crossed $600 million globally. People, stop going to see that movie. I don't want to lose this steak dinner. Stop going to see that movie, for God's sakes. So, I mean, if I was Warner Brothers and I was James Gunn, this is when I would issue the statements. I think they issued the statements too early last week. I think and maybe they did that because they were afraid that the second week it wouldn't be as strong. But, I mean, I think it was supposed to drop 50 to 52. It dropped to 54. Some people were saying it was going to drop less than 50. That didn't happen. So, it's a good drop. It's not a great drop, right? And so I think $406 million globally in 2 weeks is pretty good for Superman. I now think it has a real chance to hit the 6 or 650, as some people have been saying. I still think it's not as strong, the $700 million, but I am coming around on the fact that it is giving people a good vibes, and people are getting excited for DC. Because some things for the brand are more important than the film being this $700 million, $800 million blockbuster. The fact that people are now excited to see what's coming from Superman. And again, I'm saying this after having seen the movie a couple times, right? I mean, before I saw the movie, I was like, this has got to hit a certain amount, blah, blah, blah. But now, as I see the reaction to the movie across the board, social media, the news programs, everything, it's majority beloved by a lot of the DC fandom. It was an A- in the cinema score. And so for me, I look at it and go, okay, this is a good thing. I think this is a good thing. Now, I still think it would be better if it hit 700 million, of course. But if it tops out at 650 and it's done the job to stabilize the DC brand, I see now the effect that people were saying about stabilizing the DC brand, because they were also saying this stuff before the film came out. And if the film had not been that well received, it wouldn't have necessarily stabilized the DC brand, right? Or if it had been a good film, but like it only made $300 million total, it wouldn't have stabilized the DC brand. So the fact that people feel really good about the movie, I think that goes a long way towards seeing what we're going to, I don't know, raising the excitement of what we're going to get next for DC. I know I'm excited, and I wasn't necessarily excited before I saw Superman. So I am very curious. And that Supergirl stuff, as I said last week, that's just promotion gold right now. I'm looking forward to that movie like crazy. So I think you should feel very positive about these numbers, and hopefully they carry through the week into next weekend. Because remember, they still got like 5 more days or 4 more days before Fantastic Four comes out. And this past week, they were breaking records. We're not breaking. They were having the highest totals per day than any other movie this year. So those are all positive. Yeah, WB still has Weapons and Mortal Kombat 2 coming out this year. Right. And that Mortal Kombat looked fantastic. Holy shit, that looked like a lot of fun. And Weapons looks scary as F. So we will see. All right, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I just wanted to highlight the box office because we talked about it last week. And of course, what I Know What You Did Last Summer and Smurfs didn't do so well overall, even though they had lower budgets. They didn't do so well overall, and Eddington did not do well at all. Actually came in under expectations at 4.3 million. Smurfs did 11 million. With 22 million overseas, so 33.6 million globally. That is not good for a legendary brand like that. And as I said, Jurassic World Cross. I Know What You Did Last Summer, the remake or reboot, whatever it is, came in third with 13 million, and it launched to 11 million overseas, so 24.6 million globally. So there you go. All right, what else do we want to talk about? All right, let's talk about this. Hey, let's get into this stuff here, man. Let's talk about the Fantastic Four first reactions. Speaking of the competition that they're going to be having here, I think I have them lined up for us to follow along with. Let me take down my graphic and keep sending in your Streamlabs and Super Chats. I will be answering them after we're done with the show here in a few minutes. So here is the reaction. Let me get that a little closer. Zoom in. Let's see some of these reactions. All right, cool. Oh, well, actually, how can I make myself? No. No, I want to be on the screen. Maybe this one? Yeah, let's do this one. All right, so Fantastic Four first row. I don't have a background. Let's put this one up. Is that good? Kind of distracting. How about this one? Yeah, so I like this one. This is good. All right, so let's take a look at these first reactions. Where is it? Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Brandon Davis said, it is visually one of the best things Marvel has ever made. Parts feel like Interstellar and demand IMAX. Galactus is awesome. Silver Surfer looks really good. VFX were often immaculate. Andrew Salazar from Discussing Film says, it is a story about family above all else, where each member of the team is equally important. No one is underserved. The movie excels when fleshing out the various bonds between Pedro, Vanessa, Evan, Moss Backrack, and Joseph Quinn. Dio at Freaky You says, it is a masterpiece. Yeah, all right, slow down. The visual effects and the score are a huge standout. Galactus is huge in IMAX. It's emotional and gives you hope. This is the funny one, and beats you off and doesn't stay until the end credits. I retweeted this one the other day. This is hilarious. This one, Sean Chandler had this one sent to him, and he almost fell for it. I love that it beats you off and doesn't stop. That's hilarious. That's how you know it's a parody one, which I think is very, very funny. All right. Anyway, who else have we got on here? Daniel Baptista says the Fantastic Four First Steps is inspiring and the definitive take on Marvel's first family. Matt Shackman redefines a new era of Marvel with an adventure that is a cosmic storm of imagination and a future foundation. My brother Chris Killian over there at comicbook.com said, Fantastic Four friggin' racks. More than any Marvel movie before it, F4 feels like Jack Kirby's imagination brought to life on the big screen. Between this and Superman 2025 might go down as the year movies finally embrace the wonderful weirdness of comic books. Let's see if there are any of the names that I know of. Anthony, Lizzie Jewell says, family dynamics are there. It is what Marvel needed. Family dynamics are there and the stakes are high. Everyone is perfectly cast, and Vanessa Kirby as Sue is a standout. Matt Shackman reminds us why we loved his work in WandaVision and why we'll love this film. Let's see, is there anyone else I know who's a part of this, who's got some strong... George McKay at Harper's Media, quite possibly the best Marvel Studios film ever released. Woo. Absolutely loaded with talent and standout performances from Vanessa Kirby and Joseph Quinn. If you thought the MCU died with Endgame, think again. Thoughtfully crafted and easily a genre-defining classic. Juan, the box office expert at Films by Juan, says, Fantastic Four isn't just fantastic, it's a triumph. Shackman's all-time direction and masterful score created a genre-defining retro-futuristic film, leading to a better, brighter, and optimistic MCU. The four leads are everything we needed. Joseph Quinn's casting is generational. All right, I think that's everybody that I saw in terms of first reactions. Is there I think there's okay, here we go. Variety did one. I don't know. Can I share that Variety article? Yeah, let me switch over to that. Here we go. All right. What do they have? Let's go a little closer. Yeah, Brendan Javis, we read his. People staffer Shara Drury echoed the praise writing on X that Fantastic Four was breathtaking. She gave kudos to Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby. Stunning visuals, a moving story, witty banter, and epic action. Marvel's first family delivers one awesome ride. Pedro Pascal nails it as Mr. Fantastic. Vanessa Kirby stands out as Sue Storm. She is a shooting star. Variety exclusively reported that Malkovich was originally set to appear in First Steps as Ray Ghost, but he was cut out of the film. So that was a big news story this week that Malkovich is not in the movie, and Shackman said it was, quote, heartbreaking not to include him in the final version of the movie. And there are photos floating around of Paul Walter Hauser as a Mole Man. I wouldn't recommend that you guys look at those. So there you go. And Josh Wadling said, nothing will prepare you for the Fantastic Four. First Steps, Pedro Pascal is the perfect read, but the entire cast shines and does right by these characters. It's funny, moving, gorgeous to look at, and nonstop fantastic. This is Marvel Studios at its brilliant best. So positive word of mouth for Fantastic Four for sure. And so I'm really excited to see it tomorrow night. But again, these are people that got to see it early. So it doesn't make me feel like, okay, I'm going in to see an awesome movie. It just was like, these people liked it. They were handpicked to come in early and see it. That's their reactions. I will see what my reaction is when I go to see it tomorrow night. And if I like it or don't like it, I might have tickets to give away for that one as well. Fandango codes. I gave some Fandango codes away. Or I will be giving away some Fandango codes for Superman. So I may have some for Fantastic Four as well. And there are, this week they also released that there were 2 post-credit scenes. And I think one of them or both of them are directed by the Russos. Which of course, I think, didn't they do the Thunderbolts post-credit scene? The Russos, I thought the Russos directed that one as well. So, or Shackman directed that one rather, and then now the Russos are directing these post-credit scenes to lead us into Doomsday. So that may be that we get Robert Downey Jr. as the in appearance there in the post-credit scene. So we will see. So I'm happy for this. We will see what happens with it. People keep asking me if I saw the tracking for Fantastic Four. Yeah, I've seen it. I said that it was 130 to 140. Is what the most recent tracking is. According to the Hollywood Reporter, 130 to 140. So I mentioned that already. I don't know what they think it's going to do globally. They haven't said what they think it's going to do globally. So we will see. We will see what happens with all of that. All right. That's it for the Fantastic Four stuff. It's exciting. And I'll let you guys know if I have tickets to give away. Maybe by the time we do another episode of The Truth, I will have them to give away for people, which would be fun. So we'll see if you guys want to see it without having to pay for it, I may be able to hook you up if you win one of the tickets, if they give me codes to give away. We will see. All right, one last thing do I want to talk about? What else do I want to talk about? We're running a little over, so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but you guys want to talk about the junkets? I don't know if you guys want to talk about the junkets. Do you want to talk about the junkets? Well, fine. Where should we segue to this? Fantastic Four has had some pretty terrible junket interviews that have happened here. And listen, this has been happening all over the place with junkets. And here are some clips of them. We can watch them and be like,
wink twice if Chris Evans is popping up in Fantastic Four or Doomsday. Twice if he does, wink once if he doesn't.
Are you speaking English or German?
Ich kann's auch auf Deutsch machen.
I can't tell.
The language.
I didn't understand a word he said.
Now he's gone blank.
I've just gone into a blackout.
See, I thought that was a fun one, but then we get this one, which was the one that I think I retweeted this one and was like, what is happening here?
But jumping right into you, Vanessa, you've kind of become a social media icon for your force-filled, snatched, cunty fierceness face.
Oh God.
How did you come about to go into that
good
force
thing?
field? It's a good thing. It's a
Is
good
it?
thing.
Oh
It's a
my
good
God.
Cunty
thing.
face is good, babe.
What's that from? Sunglasses, maybe.
So let's
Cunty face.
here,
So
let me-
jumping right into you, Vanessa, you've kind of become a social media icon for your force-filled, snatched, cunty fierceness face.
Oh God.
How did you come about to go into that force field? It's a good thing. It's a
Is
good
it?
thing.
Oh
It's a
my
good
Cunty
thing.
face is good, babe.
What's that from? Sunglasses, maybe.
Cunty face just means fierce,
Does it mean like
fabulous,
Does it?
beautiful, strong.
Strong,
It's good. It's good.
okay?
independent.
Promise.
Yeah, I don't know anything about. And then there was this one, which was a real train wreck.
Pedro has played a father in so many different texts, a found father figure. But do you think it's safe to say that Reed is the first capital D daddy in the MCU?
Are there no other fathers in the
Oh, I mean
MCU?
daddy.
Oh, daddy.
father.
Daddy.
Capital
No.
D.
I would, okay, no. The first capital D daddy in the MCU, no. I would say he's in a group of a capital D daddies.
Look at Vanessa.
There are
It's like this is
a lot of daddies in the MCU, if you're asking my opinion.
Tony Stark's pretty daddy.
Tony Stark is daddy.
Chris Evans, pretty daddy.
Yeah. There's
Yeah, you're right. There's actually it's a daddy party.
Oh, it's a daddy fest.
Yeah.
Trust
You're
me.
lucky to stick out in the daddy fest. I hope they're
Let's
nice
hope
to
it.
you.
I have to. I'll use my stretching powers to stick out a bit.
Pedro has played a father in
Oh man. Oh, this is some rough stuff. This is some rough stuff. Oh, let me take that down right now. Man, that is some rough stuff, y'all. It is. I don't know. We've been seeing this more and more over the last few years. How these studios and their marketing teams and these publicists and the people they approve to go and do these junkets. And look, I'm doing this piece, and I'll probably never get approved to go to another junket, and that's okay with me. You know, I am in a position now where I don't need that kind of stuff to boost my figures or boost my numbers or anything like that. I'd rather do a sit down interview for an hour and a half with creative, and that I haven't gotten to that point where I can like use my numbers to be able to convince a publicist or a studio to have me interview a creative for an hour or an hour and a half about their work, about this. Like what Josh Horowitz does, I wish I could do that. I know I can do that. I wish I had the opportunity to do that because I would love to interview. If you watch my long form interviews, I think they're stuff I'm really proud of that are here on the channel with different creatives that I've done in the past. I'm proud of those interviews. Would love to get a chance to do more. But watching this stuff, junkets, look, first of all, let me tell you, I've done a number of junkets. You guys have known, you've seen my interviews with with Sylvester Stallone, The Rock twice, Clint Eastwood, the cast from Parasite. Like I've done a number of junket interviews. Denzel over the years, you know, they are a art and they are a skill. And coming up with questions that you can ask these creatives that they A, haven't heard before, or B, that they find interesting is not easy because they have so many people asking them questions and they only have 5 minutes to do this stuff with. So you're very lucky if you get an actor or creative who is like understands this part of the business and gives you 100% every time. Like The Rock does that. Dwayne Johnson, for all my stuff earlier about him and his feelings and his ego and all of that, when you're in a room with him and you're interviewing him, he is so open to everything you're bringing. I've never had a bad experience with him face to face. And I don't think I've talked to anybody who's ever had a bad experience with him face to face, interviewing him for a junket. But other people, you've seen those videos. They are not as happy to be in the process. Johnny Depp, Joaquin Phoenix, others who are a little more prickly, a little more prissy, a little more pretentious, a little more self-involved, or a little more introverted. And so they were uncomfortable with those kinds of situations. So I've seen that. So I'll say that going in, that's the foundational thing. These are tough to do, coming up with questions, because sometimes just because you come up with 5 questions doesn't mean you're going to get all 5 answered. You might get 1 or 2 answered because the person might go on and on and on and on and on with an answer. And then next thing you know, you've only got 30 seconds, or you get the 1 minute tag and you have yet to get to the other 2 big questions that either your producer gave you to ask or you came up with to ask. They're tough. So I give that grace to the situation. That being said, these interviews from these people, I think they're TikTokers or whatever, it comes off as super unprofessional. It comes off as a waste of time for the creatives. You're using language that these people who are in their 40s probably don't, or late 30s or whatever, don't really get, or they're not on social media all the time getting these slangs, getting these, getting the knowledge of this stuff. So you use the word cunty, and that's a very dangerous word to use. Now in Britain, of course, that's just a word. That's like saying the F word. It's not a big deal. But in other countries, that word, especially America, that word symbolizes something completely different. Now I get it. They're trying to be the cool kids, saying the cool lingo of whatever's cool nowadays. I was once young. We had our dialogues. We had our slang words. Every generation of slang words. None of you are fucking unique. We all have slang words we come up with that are good, like based now. We had our own version of based back in the 80s. All in the 90s had your version of based. 2000s kids had their version of based. Like everyone's got their version of slang terms. And you're not breaking any new ground. You're not discovering a new treasure or a world wonder or anything like that, or wonder of the world rather. It's slang. And I get it. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a way to use the slang. And him calling Pedro a daddy, which has implications beyond just being an attractive guy. It could also mean it has gay implications. And I know Pedro has not come out in his way. So I think to ask that question, you're kind of walking into a man's personal space and essentially asking him to out himself to a degree. And so I love how Pedro answered that question. Very politically, very smart. It's kind of like that question that David Cornsett was asked by that one reporter who at the Mary Sue, when she was like, "Hey, I need to ask you this question about Kevin Costner and Man of Steel. Would this Superman have saved Kevin?" She was essentially walking him into a minefield to ridicule Man of Steel. And he smartly did not do that. And even came out later and said that he likes the movie and likes Henry Cavill's performance, likes him as Superman, that Henry Cavill sent him a very gracious note after he reached out to him asking for tips and pointers. But, these people, some of these people want to add, and not all of them do it, but some of them do want to ask these questions that make stuff go viral, get the attention, get the clicks, get the likes, get the engagement. Or they fawn all over these people. Oh my God. They become the Chris Farley from SNL. What was it like when you like, do you remember when you, and it's like, and they're all doing that to play a certain act or play a certain character, right? I think nothing drives me more. And listen, I did this when I was first starting out, but now looking back, like, I think you can have personal anecdotes that are connected to the person, but keep them quick. I save mine now for after the interview. Like when I interviewed Denzel, I told him after I interviewed him how much Malcolm X meant to me. Like after the cameras got turned off, I told him how much it changed my life. Malcolm X changed my life when I was a young 20-year-old. And so those are precious moments that you get. With Pedro, I had a fun exchange with Pedro after the cameras. He graciously gave me 8 minutes. We had a really fun conversation. I interviewed Pedro for Equalizer 2, which upset some people who were at Collider who found out that I got the interview because they really wanted the interview and they pouted all day about it. And I know because I was there when they were pouting. And it was a great fun time. And then afterwards we talked as two Latinos just talking in Spanish about shit. So it was great. Those are the times you do it. But what we're seeing now is a lot of like, you were on my wall and I have all your movies and all that. So there's a way to do it that I think in a long form format that works, but in a short form format, it feels like you're making yourself the center of the interview when it should be them. And that's just my own personal approach to it. And I learn more from you making them the center of the interview than I do from you making yourself the center of the interview. And when you ask questions like this, you're making yourself the center of the interview. When you ask him if he's a daddy or you talk about cunty face or whatever, like you're making yourself the interview. And you're not as important as that creative that I'm watching. You're just fucking not. I don't care how many followers or subscribers or whatever you fucking have. You're not that important to me as much as someone who is creating something. Because they're creating something from scratch, right? I know you're a content creator, and as a fellow content creator, I get it. But you're not doing a theatrical movie. And you're not out here trying to get people to watch your theatrical movies. A different approach. Yes, you're trying to get people to watch your content. So I get it. You want to use them to get attention for your content. But there's a difference between using someone and creating something. And I think these people created something and they want to promote it. So I think you have to ask questions that lean into that and work harder at asking these questions than they do. So yeah, that's the things that you got to. Yeah, Karen's right. Pedro dated women also. We never know. Exactly. So that's why I think asking a question like that is wrong, so and I think that you got to respect them because look at Vanessa Kirby's face. She looks so uncomfortable answering these questions. And it's because she knows, like, for her, it's her own business. And she expects more from that. Like Vanessa, if you watched her in interviews, like longer form interviews, this is an intelligent woman. This is a woman who is very clear about who she is as a person. Pedro as well, but Pedro is more playful. So Pedro doesn't take it all so seriously. But he has that, has been documented. He has panic attacks. He has anxieties. I forget who he was holding on to. Oh, Vanessa. Yeah, during some of the Fantastic Four press stuff, if you've catched him holding her arm or her holding his or putting her hand behind his back, it's all to calm his anxieties, and so they have that friendship, they have that relationship. And I think that's something when you ask questions like that, you're not only insulting the person, you're insulting yourself. And so, I'm a small content creator, so what do you fucking care? But when I watch stuff like that, for me, it's hurtful. I just am heartbroken when I see that kind of stuff. It's an insult. And I see so many qualified people who run sites, who work for sites, their own sites or bigger sites, who aren't getting a chance to interview these creatives because the publicists are defaulting to these people. Now, that's where the blame really comes. The main blame is the studios, the marketing divisions, and the publicists who assign this stuff to these people. That's where the blame lies. Look, these influencers, there is a contract with the devil you're making with them. Like, they are going to come in to create content for their channel. That is their job for their channel. I don't give a fuck who gets hurt in the process or who I embarrass or who I insult. I need to create content. I need to create engagement so I can make money, right? So if you ask them to be part of this situation, then going in, they're going to, and I hate that they subject the actors to this kind of stuff because the actors don't know what they're going to ask. They haven't vetted these influencers or social media people. They know certain reporters for certain sites because those are the same reporters that show up every time to interview them. But when they start going outside the realms of entertainment journalism and they bring in people like this, they're essentially hanging out their actors to dry. with this stuff, and the actors have to roll with it. So I find it disrespectful to the actors coming from the studios and the marketing teams, because your job is to get people excited for the movie. No one is excited watching those two clips. Not one fucking person's like, oh, I better go get a ticket for Fantastic Four now. He talked about daddies or her cunty face. Ooh, I better go get tickets now. It's like, that's not what happens at all. So yeah, just frustrating to see that. Right. And as Draws says, body language speaks volumes too. Yeah, you can see her face. And she may be doing that on purpose. Because as I said, Vanessa's an intelligent woman. She may be given those kinds of faces so she doesn't betray fully what she thinks about the situation, but she's very clear in how she thinks about the situation. So yeah. Yeah, Marco says, it makes me want to watch the movie less. Exactly, Mark. You're 100% right on that. All right. So, I mean, obviously I can't change anything from here, but I just wanted to highlight the fact that, look, I understand going in that these junkets are tough. They're a skill. They're not easy. The questions you ask, you have to really hit it off the bat if you want to get them to answer it and get some viral content. So I don't necessarily blame them fully, the interviewers, but I do think they need to have some more decorum, some more intelligence, some more experience, some more journalistic integrity to them. Up to them if they want to do that. But it's really, to me, the lion's share of the blame is the studios and the marketing teams and the publicists who allow this to happen, who hang their actors out to dry. And that needs to stop. These people work really hard to create these movies. Judge them on the content that they've created. Don't sit there. Well, not content. Sorry. Judge them on the films and TV shows they've created. Don't sit there and talk about their faces or if they're daddies. Don't subject them to those kinds of conversations from these kinds of influencers, because it's an insult to them for the most part. So, all right, that's my 2 cents. Yeah, Josh does a great job. Tim says Josh Horowitz is still the go. Yeah, Josh, but also Josh gets long form. I don't know how Josh would be. I don't think I ever saw a Josh Horowitz junket. And it may be because he did good on those junkets, he was able to get on MTV and all those kinds of things. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Josh is great. I love his long form content. He gets some really good answers. Kind of like Chris Van Vliet with pro wrestling stuff. Like him and Van Vliet are the guys I watch the most because they get great content out of both of them. So someone said there's a Kevin Feige interview. Do I stay on to look at this Kevin Feige interview? Do you guys want me to do that? I mean, there's so many. We've been on for 2 hours. I don't want to take up your entire Sunday. Oh shit. There is a massive. Damn, do we want to read this together? All right, you guys let me know. Should I stay on and do the Kevin Feige interview? Or read through this Kevin Feige interview that just dropped? I mean, I've been on for so long. I don't want to bore you guys. And I want to get to your questions, but this is the article here. Is it big enough? Oh, yeah, I like to make myself smaller here. Here we go. This is the article here. Kevin Feige on Marvel Studios' future, focusing on lower budgets, less TV, and more Robert Downey Jr. Look at Superman. It's clearly not superhero fatigue. From Adam B. Very, Angelique Jackson, and Brent Lang. All right. Let me see where this lands up. All right. I guess we can go forward with this. You guys want me to do it? Okay. All right. No one's saying no. So, all right. We're staying on. Keep sending in your Streamlabs super chats. Almost 400 of you joining me live, which I very, very much appreciate. Please make sure you hit a like on this because there's only 128 likes. Would like to get more likes than that. So please send in your Streamlabs and super chats as we're going along. Would love some support as well from you guys. And since I'm staying on, let's do this. All right, so here we go. I'm reading this for the first time along with you guys. So this is like a reacting thing. You're gonna get me reacting to this in real time. This dropped apparently 6 minutes ago on Variety. I want to make sure this is correct. 6 minutes ago on Variety. Yeah, July 20th, 12 p.m. PT. Yeah, this just dropped. All right, let's go through it. Angela left you in here as a test to see who would try to break the lock there. Kevin Feige was teasing a small group of journalists, including from Variety, while sitting at one end of the most storied conference rooms in Hollywood, in the heart of Marvel Studios' offices on the Disney lot in Burbank. He was there to talk about the past, present, and future of the studio he's led since Robert Downey Jr. declared himself to be Iron Man in 2008. After Marvel's communications chief Angela Shaw brought Feige into the room, he gestured to the opposite wall, covered with shutter doors that are secure with a padlock. Behind them, he explained with a smile, are the plans for the next 7 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Oh, so not a 10-year plan this time, a 7-year plan. He says it's traditionally a 5-year plan. It's usually been 10. He said, I think it goes to 2032 right now. Though it has been quite 7 years, though it hasn't been quite 7 years since he last did this, it's still rare that Feige gives an interview of this length and candor, but after some ice-breaking small talk in which Marvel's chief creative officer shared his thoughts on DC Studios' Superman, more on that in a bit, Feige made clear why he's spending the Friday before the premiere of Fantastic Four First Steps, the 54th entry in the MCU. Jesus Christ, that's crazy. Speaking on the record. Here's his quotes. We produced 50 hours of stories from 2017 and 2019, Feige said, but in the 6 years since Avengers Endgame, I'm going to go a little bit closer on this. Since 6 years since Avengers Endgame concluded the Infinity Saga, quote, we've had well over 100 hours of stories in half the time. That's too much. In fact, including animation, Marvel's Multiverse Saga spends 127 hours of content. That is insane. After Endgame, Feige said the company entered into a period of, quote, experimentation and evolution of the kinds of movies it was making, leading to projects like Eternals and Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings, which criminally still doesn't have a fucking sequel. I've always thought if you take success and don't experiment with it and don't risk with it, then it's not worth it, he said. What we also ended up focusing on because of Disney Plus was expansion. And it's that expansion that I think led people to say, it used to be fun, but now do I have to know everything about all of these? Consequently, Feige believes the well-documented problems Marvel's been facing over the last few years stem from an overabundance of supply, not a sudden drop in demand. Look at Superman, he said of the hit film, which opened 125 million domestically and has grossed 407 million globally to date. It's clearly not superhero fatigue, right? Feige said of Superman, I liked it a lot. I love you. Just jump right into it. You don't know who Mr. Terrific is? Tough. You'll figure it out. This is a fully fleshed out world. He didn't say he loved it. He said he liked it a lot. Interesting. As Feige explained, and as Disney CEO Robert Iger has also said more than once, Marvel's dramatic increase in volume spread Marvel far too thin for its relatively small team of executives to keep up. That's for sure. We've said that. And certainly that's something Jeff mentioned on the hot mic quite a few times when it was happening. At the near the beginning of our show, there were conversations about Feige being spread too thin. For the first time ever, quantity trumped quality, Feige said. So this is basically a mea culpa so far from Feige's side of things as he's representing the Marvel Studios brand. We spent 12 years working on the Infinity Saga, saying that that's never going to happen to us. We always had more characters than we could possibly make because we weren't going to make a movie a month. Suddenly there's a mandate to make more. And we go, well, we do have more. And starting in 2023, audiences began to sour, though, on Marvel's content on the big and small screen. As Variety reported in June, only 3 of the 22 films in the Infinity Saga grossed less than $500 million worldwide. Since the pandemic, however, 7 out of the 13 movies in the MCU have failed to reach that milestone. Viewership for Marvel streaming shows, meanwhile, has also steadily declined. According to data from Luminate, most recently, or Luminate, I don't know how you say that. Most recently, Thunderbolts, which earned some of the best reviews Marvel's received in years, has only grossed $380 million globally. So, I mean, clearly he's saying we had a mandate, right? We had a mandate to do more, and that was never our plan. We wanted to slow roll everything, build up to everything, but there was a demand to do more. And a lot of people want to come after Chapek for this, but it started under Iger, and then Chapek continued it and accelerated it. So both of them deserve the blame for this. I know Iger looks like the hero now for ousting Chapek and coming in and saying, we're going to slow stuff down. But if you do the math and you look at the history of things, Iger was the one who started to want more from Marvel, and Chapek just took that ball and ran with it. That's the truth. Too many people just want to worship Iger's at the altar of Bob Iger and want to just lambast Chapek, and it's not true. It's both. Feige says Thunderbolts I thought was a very, very good movie, but nobody knew that title, and many of those characters were from a TV show. It's true. I agree. That's one of the reasons I was worried about it. Some audiences were still feeling that notion of, I guess I had to have seen other shows to understand who this is. If you actually saw the movie, that wouldn't be the case, and we make the movie, so that's not the case. But I think we still have to make sure the audience understands that. It's fair. It's totally fair. You understand that. To that end, Feige spent an hour discussing everything from budgets to TV schedules and when Marvel greenlights a project to when or if audiences could see Miles Morales, Ms. Marvel, or Charlize Theron again. He also provided an update on the status of Blade with Mahershala Ali and confirmed widespread fan speculation that 2027's Avengers Secret Wars will not only conclude the multiverse saga, but provide a reset for the entire MCU, including a new cast for the X-Men films. So let's get through it. Let me take another drink. There will be a lot less TV, he says. While Marvel's feature output is slowing down to an at most 3 films a year, a pace the MCU first reached in 2018, its TV output is cooling off even further, with often just a single live-action show per year, and the shows they do make will have far less overlap with the feature films to disabuse audiences from the expectation that they have to watch everything to follow what's happening in MCU project. All right, so this is stuff we've heard before over the last few weeks. You've heard them say that Feige himself saying that they're going to slow down the TV production, and Iger too, and that you're not going to necessarily have to watch the show to watch the movie. That's definitely a focus that they are getting people to like, but putting this out there, pumping this out there. They want Marvel fans or fans in general to have a understanding here that it's no longer about homework anymore. They're trying to make them as in an addition thing. Like you can watch the prequel trilogy. You don't have to watch Clone Wars, and you can still enjoy or not enjoy the prequel trilogy. If you watch Clone Wars, it obviously gives you more background on the prequel trilogy, more of an understanding of the things that are going on. It certainly fleshes out Anakin much more much more deeply and much more richly, but you don't have to watch it. So I think that's what he's kind of saying here overall. By way of example, Feige cited the Marvel TV shows of the 2010s like Daredevil and Jessica Jones on Netflix and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter on ABC, which were produced by a separate, now defunct division of Marvel Entertainment, so they had a tenuous connection to the MCU, if at all. I think allowing a TV show to be a TV show is what we're returning to, he said. Asked if the events at the end of Thunderbolts, when most of the population of Manhattan was enveloped in an inky black shroud of depressing nothingness, would affect season 2 of the NYC-based Disney Plus series Daredevil Born Again, Feige had a simple answer. No. At the same time, the line between film and TV is not ironclad. John Bernthal will play his Daredevil Born Again character of the Punisher in both an upcoming TV special and opposite Tom Holland in 2026 Spider-Man Brand New Day. He says, well, we have great actors playing great characters. I think it would be fun to see them in multiple places, but the output will be much less. So that's basically what he's getting at. The output is going to be lower, and we're going to go back to TV shows being TV shows. No, Feige hated those shows. By the way, the truth is, Feige did not like those shows, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., any of those Marvel shows, the Netflix Marvel. Why? Because Feige wasn't in control of those shows necessarily. And he didn't want those creators creating canon for his MCU. And so now they've brought them in now, and there's rumors about an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming back. There's rumors about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. appearing in Secret Wars or Doomsday or something. And that's fine. But I think what he's basically saying is we're going to go back to the old way of doing things, right? And this is not a surprise. Like, again, I'm thinking on my feet as I look at this. They brought back Robert Downey Jr. They brought back the Russos. Now they're going back to what they did before they made all these changes and did all this content. So they've essentially tried to get bigger, and they got punched back. And because they got punched back so hard, they are now going back to how they did things before. This is basically what he's saying. There will be TV shows, and when it's convenient, though, certain TV shows, certain characters will bleed into the feature films. But when it's not convenient, they're just going to be TV shows that have nothing to do with the main canon, or movies that have nothing to do with the main canon, as he said with the end of Thunderbolt, with the Thunderbolts and the inky cloak stuff. Because both Spider-Man and Daredevil, all the Defenders would have been wrapped up in that, and all the New York-based superheroes would have been wrapped up in that. So they're basically having their cake and eating it too, right? I mean, when it makes sense for us to do that, we're going to make it canon. When it doesn't, it's just going to it's going to be canon, but it's not going to be part of the overall main timeline. So they're trying to play with all sides of this and go back to where it was before, and then cherry pick that reduction. Also meant that 2 of Marvel's TV projects were held for over a year after they'd been completed. Ironheart with Dominique Thorne, which concluded in early July, and Wonder Man with Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, which premieres in December. It's something Feige is not keen to repeat. He said, I don't like when things sit on shelves. He said, it stinks. I think that's great. The delay especially affected Wonder Man, which follows an aspiring actor with hidden superpowers as he strives to land a role on a TV series playing a superhero. Feige pointed out that Marvel made the TV show before HBO Max's 2024 comic book movie send up the franchise or Apple TV's Hollywood satire of the studio. But now it looks like they're following a trend instead of leading it. Yeah, that's the game sometimes. That's the game sometimes. Oof, man, I don't like this. Diversity still matters, but don't expect to see Miles Morales. Oof. Since the massive success of 2018's Black Panther, Marvel has made a concerted effort to produce projects centered around women, people of color, and LGBTQ characters, for sure. Those titles include Captain Marvel, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, The Marvels, Captain America, Brave New World in film, WandaVision, Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, Echo, and Agatha all along on TV. Several of these projects have been unsuccessful, but many have not. Several of these projects have been successful, but many have not commercially or critically been successful. More to the point, with Marvel's decision to dramatically reduce its output, it's been unclear what kind of future many of these characters even have in the MCU, if any at all. Pressed on this question, Feige appeared unconcerned. Marvel represents the world outside your window, he said. I've always said it before DEI and woke became a thing, and after DEI and woke became a thing. Are we after? I don't think so. He singled out Ms. Marvel and the Marvel star Iman Vellani as one of the greatest bits of casting we've ever done, adding, I can't wait to see her somewhere. Where that will be is much less evident. At the end of the Marvels, Vellani's Kamala Khan appeared to recruit Haley Steinfeld's Kate Bishop to be part of a young superhero team. But Feige danced around a question about whether Young Avengers as a film, TV series, or TV special is on the horizon. He said, potentially, in that case, it comes down to where's the best story and where's the best strange alchemy. Who would be fun to see them with each other, because that's what Young Avengers are, but also mixing it up more. Feige was more definitive about the potential of another highly anticipated Marvel character, Spider-Man's Miles Morales, showing up in the MCU in the near future. That is nowhere, he said. Woof. Until Sony Pictures, which holds the film rights to the character, completes its animated Miles trilogy with 2027's Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, which was recently pushed, Feige explained, we've been told to stay away. Wow. So let's deal with this. Diversity still matters, but don't expect to see Miles Morales. So good lead-in paragraph, certainly laying out all this kind of stuff, but also talking about how unsuccessful they're. Now, they weren't unsuccessful because people didn't want to see this stuff. They were unsuccessful because the shows themselves were not good, or the movies were not 100% good. So, well, not 100%, but overwhelmingly good. I would say 80 to 90% good. They weren't. So people rebelled against it, right? And there have been defenders. People defend the Marvels, which, and the three ladies were great, or good chemistry, but the film itself was just so forgettable. Black Widow was good. Shang-Chi was good. Captain America Brave New World, I liked it for a movie for what it was. I didn't think it was as terrible as some people have dramatically said, Clutching the Pearls. Captain Marvel, yes, not that good of a movie. WandaVision, incredible. Ms. Marvel was fun, not that strong. She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, fun, not that strong, and that ending was very divisive. Secret Invasion was a crap fest. Echo was fine, not great. Agatha all along was good, it was a cut above. So you would look at it and go, okay, yeah, an uneven track record, right? Very reflective of Marvel overall on the film side as well during these phases. And so you look at the situation and go, okay, I get it. You want to reduce your output already. But talking about the world outside, I like his comment that, I've always said it before DEI woke became a thing, and after DEI became a thing, Marvel represents the world outside your window. But it didn't actually initially. So he's being a little bit of a liar here, and I'm going to say that because the big ding with Marvel before they started incorporating people of color was that all of these superheroes were white. The villains were white. It was a white-centric point of view. It wasn't until Feige started making these changes and they started bringing in more people of color, more LGBTQ plus people, more people of more black people, that things changed, right? But if you remember back then, and if you don't have fuzzy memories and you don't live in a nostalgia world, or you don't worship at the altar of Kevin Feige all the time, the big complaint about Marvel was that they weren't catering to people of color. They weren't having people of color have play important roles in their movies and TV shows. Well, they didn't have any TV shows, movies. So that was a big deal. And it wasn't until like Black Panther kind of opened the door, and then boom. Because remember, was it Ike Perlmutter? Is that his name? He was dead set against it, and I think he's the guy who was an utter asshole about it. And even tried to take control recently of the Disney board to put everything back in place where it would be all white heroes. I appreciate him saying that. I've always said it before DEI and woke became a thing, and after DEI woke became a thing. Are we after? I don't think so. And then, of course, cites Iman Vellani. He doesn't cite anybody else, but he cites Iman Vellani. So it's fascinating because he doesn't want to walk into the Marvels drama. He doesn't want to walk into the Eternals drama. He doesn't want to walk into the She-Hulk drama, but he walks into the Ms. Marvel stuff because he thinks, people love her as Ms. Marvel. They may not like the show overall, but they love her. And the family is great. So he carefully chose which one to talk about, which person of color to talk about, which female person of color to talk about. So, the fact that he's like, well, we were DI before and I would is nonsense, utter nonsense. I'm not saying they didn't care about people of color or didn't whatever, but you could tell they wanted to establish things in their own way that were safe and comics accurate because it was catering to the white people. Now, because they tried going the other route and didn't deliver quality at the same level as their projects from before with white-led stuff. Now they're like, well, we're still going to be this, but we'll see where they show up. Like Kamala Khan recruited, blah, blah. Well, Feige danced around the question about the Young Avengers. I don't think he wants to do it. I don't think he wants the Young Avengers at all. I think he knows if he does Young Avengers, he's in some fucking trouble. I think he knows that the anti-woke YouTube people who make money off creating anger or fomenting the anger of their base are going to come after a Young Avengers show or movie. I think it's a show now. For the people of color, for the women and black people, they will absolutely come after all of them one by one and as a group because they have to make their money and they're going to fabricate this shit and get all up in their feelings and clutch their pearls to make money. That is going to happen. So Kevin is trying to be political about this and say potentially it comes down to where's the best story and where's the best strange alchemy, who would be fun to see them with each other because that's what Young Avengers are, but also mixing it up more. So he's essentially covering all his bases so that they can say, well, we decided to go this route and we told you we were going to be open to everything. The thing with Miles Morales is fascinating because I did not know that was so definitive. I thought maybe a lot of people have been wondering if they're going to surprise us with a Miles Morales appearance in Secret Wars, but I don't know if the trilogy finishes before Secret Wars comes out because this isn't Secret Wars 20, but I think they pushed it to later. So maybe if the trilogy finishes in Secret Wars, if it finishes before Secret Wars, Miles can still show up in Secret Wars. But yeah, he says none. That is nowhere, he said, until they're done with the trilogy. So he's saying until he completes this trilogy, they've been told to stay away. So completing may mean either completing in terms of they finished, they locked the picture, they did the post-production, it's ready to be released, or the release date. So that could be interesting. The Marvel method is here to stay, though. It just won't be quite as expensive. DC Studios co-chief James Gunn has said repeatedly that he will only greenlight projects that have a complete script. Sorry, guys. That is a point of difference from Marvel Studios, which has sometimes announced projects with release dates before a writer has been hired. Yeah, true. Let alone before a script is completed, and famously reworks movies throughout the filmmaking process. The Fantastic Four's star Evan Moss-Bachrach recently told Variety that he didn't think, quote, the script was fully ready when the cast began 3 weeks of rehearsals before filming. So we were sort of workshopping the movie in a way. Man, that is scary. But that is also the rumors, obviously, as we spoke about from sources, as we spoke about on Hot Mic, and other people have speculated as well, that there isn't a finished script for Secret Wars or Doomsday even yet. And so they're still figuring it out. So, yeah, maybe Feige took issue with both the comparison between Gunn's mandated at DC and Marvel's approach. Of course he would. And the idea that Marvel needed to radically alter how it makes projects. We've never started a movie without a full script. And I have never been satisfied with a script that we've had. I've never been satisfied with a movie we've released. This is great political talk. For those of you who are studying how to become a future political leader, maybe either whether you're in Hollywood or outside of Hollywood, this is great political double talk. We've never started a movie without a full script. Sure. I mean, maybe in that the script was finished. We didn't 100% like it, but we have to hit a certain date. So we're going to start shooting it and then figure out what we need to work out as we go along. And look, I've seen people push back on the guy. Well, they're always rewriting on sets. Have you ever made a movie before? Sure, yes. But it's different when you're writing massive fucking parts of the movie or haven't even finished writing massive parts of the fucking movie and rewriting a diner scene. There's two different fucking things. So, and I've never been satisfied with the script that we've had. I've never been satisfied with the movie. That's basically, again, playing both sides in the situation. He's never been satisfied. It's basically saying there's always room for improvement, is what he's trying to say. He defended Marvel's practice of plussing projects at every turn as they're being made, a term of art referring to pushing for incremental improvements that Feige credited to Walt Disney. Actors, both the ones that are playing these characters for the first or second time and the characters playing them for the 10th or 12th time, are the best in the world at it and know these characters so well, Feige said. If they have an idea, you want to listen to it and you want to adjust to it and you want to improve it, I wouldn't want to change that. Yeah, I guess that's fine. It's kind of shielding itself a little bit and like, hey, this is cool. We're doing this, blah, blah, blah. And we're getting input from the actors so they can feel more agency in what they're creating. I totally understand that. But plussing the projects is what sometimes lands them into hot water because they add too much and it becomes convoluted and they're trying to do too much and they don't have enough groundwork being laid down to have the films or the TV shows deliver that punch that they intended to deliver. Feige continued, I know there are filmmakers, James in my experience isn't one of them, maybe he is now, who say, if you want to be a part of my movie, you just say the words and you stay here the entire schedule in case we need you. We have so many actors who can't do that. We don't do that. We give people a window. We keep to that window. That hasn't always been the case, right? We've seen them extend and have to do reshoots and readjust and whatever. So I don't know how much truth is in that. Fascinating. I know there are filmmakers, James in my experience isn't one of them, but maybe he is now, who say, if you want to be part of my movie, you just say the words and you stay here the entire schedule in case we need you. Fascinating. Why would he say that about James? I don't know why he brings James into this, but okay. Yeah. All right. Fair point. Marvel has changed course on at least one major aspect of its films, their cost. After budgets began to balloon following Endgame, partly due to the pandemic, partly due to the, quote, feeling the need to deliver a certain level of spectacle, the studio, quote, started grinding down the budget in 2023. Feige said Marvel's films from Deadpool and Wolverine through the Fantastic Four have been upwards of a third cheaper than they were 2 years before that. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the casting in those films, where are they going? You know, they're going for the cheaper talent. They're not going to pay extra. Not that they're cheaper in terms of quality, but they're cheaper in terms of where they're at in their careers and what they can demand. Adam Driver is going to be a different quote than Pedro Pascal. Emma Stone or Margot Robbie is going to be a different quote than Vanessa Kirby. You know, I don't know who the Johnny Storm, what they were thinking of, or the thing. But yeah, I mean, those are those things you look at for sure. Deadpool and Wolverine, you have the whole TVA crew. It's a bunch of TV actors. Wumi Musaka, Andrew McFadden. Yes, you brought Hugh Jackman back, but I imagine you weren't breaking the bank to bring Hugh Jackman back to play the role. And Ryan was paid a certain amount for sure. So they understand who to pay and who they can go cheaper on when they look at this. Feige said Marvel executives even met with the teams behind the 2023 sci-fi epic The Creator, which director Gareth Edwards made for a staggeringly low $80 million to learn how they pulled it off. That's good. I think everybody's in that state of mind, at least at Disney, Feige said, of the belt tightening. I think it has to get better. Is AI going to do that? I don't know. Woo! That is a massive quote. That is a massive quote. I think everybody's in that state of mind, at least at Disney, about the belt tightening. Quote, I think it has to get better. Is AI going to do that? I don't know. He's the one bringing up AI. That is absolutely a trial balloon. He is floating that up there and adding that to a response that he has not been asked about in order to prepare the audience that this is going to happen. And I tell you this, only the creatives are going to be pissed about this. Maybe some occasional fans, but the creatives are the only ones who are going to be pissed at this. A majority of the fans are like, wait, if you can churn out the content cheaper, quicker with AI, and I can't tell the difference, then I'm on board. And I'm telling you, I think that's what is absolutely coming down from Hollywood very, very soon. This tried to stem the AI tide thing that strikes we're all about. It is absolutely going to be a crushing tsunami wave of AI that is going to drown all those creatives out. I'm telling you, that is absolutely true. He is speaking as a company man. He is not speaking as a creative. He is speaking as a Disney company man. Can we make it for cheaper and still make it look epic? Then we will use AI and we'll deal with the people crying about it. And yeah, the end of the studio was very funny when he's like, "Oh, fuck AI." Yeah, that's great for the creatives to say that, but I'm telling you, there's not going to be a massive outcry from the fans. That's going to be like in the hundreds of millions that people want to stop and not go to these movies. They just want to be entertained. And if they could deal with CGI, if they can deal with special effects, which is what AI is evolved from in movies, then they're going to be fine with AI. I'm telling you. And he is floating that as a trial balloon. There is no fucking way he's not floating that as a trial balloon. So yeah, the MCU's future won't be in Hollywood. So real quick, who is it? Who said that? Planet Yavin says, that a shocker? I don't think so. You may not think so, Planet Yavin, but for someone who represents a large brand like Marvel to say that straight up, that is a massive thing. It's Disney. He's representing Disney when he says that, Disney and Marvel. So that's dangerous. That's essentially him saying, yes, we're going to do AI. Deal with it. A dude from Lionsgate saying it doesn't mean anywhere near the amount that it means when Kevin Feige is saying it. So that's a massive deal. Massive deal. All right, the MCU's future won't be in Hollywood. Don't look for the Avengers to set up shop in LA anytime soon. The super teams next to Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars are being produced in London's Pinewood Studios, the latest in a long line of big budget Hollywood films to decamp for the UK. The move has left many in the industry raising the alarm about runaway production, a message that President Trump briefly embraced when he floated the idea of imposing tariffs on foreign-made blockbusters. And let me add this, and then quickly moved on with whatever bright thing was dangling in front of his face. Feige said that the decision to make the new movies overseas as opposed to in Georgia, where many previous Marvel films have been shot, came down to space, not just the UK's generous subsidies. There was a time, which is not right now, but there was a time where we made that deal 5 or 6 years ago where everybody was fighting for stage space and the great expansion of not just us, but everybody. Feige said, referencing the explosion in production that accompanied the streaming revolution. So we had the opportunity to lock up Pinewood, which is why many of our movies will be there for the foreseeable future. Nothing wrong with that. It's a business decision. You got to do what you got to do. He predicted that future Marvel movies will be shot in the U.S., particularly in production hubs like Georgia and New York that offer more competitive film incentives than California, which recently passed a new $750 million production tax credit. My career of making these big movies, very few of them post the Phase 1 movies, have been here, and they moved because of the cost. There's one exception, however, Wonder Man, which takes place in Hollywood, was filmed in the entertainment capital. So, yeah, to me, I'm not so surprised by this. This makes sense. And this is low-key a shot at California Governor Gavin Newsom and at the state itself to make changes to make it attractive to bring Hollywood back. But you know that there's a strong contingent of Republicans who don't give a fuck about Hollywood and just want to undercut Hollywood at every opportunity they can. So we will see how that all plays itself out in California. Kang is kaput, of course, but what about Charlize Theron in the Eternals? Oh, this is interesting. In March of 2023, a month after Jonathan Majors played the arch-villain, we know all this. Kang was arrested. Kang had been touted as Thanos, blah, 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 blah. But the day Majors was convicted on 2 misdemeanor counts for harassment of some Marvel announcers parting ways with the actor following the studio. Robert Downey Jr. was returning to the MCU. But on Friday, Feige revealed that the studio had grown wary of Kang's heft as a character before Quantumania hit theaters. Ooh, this is an interesting development. We had started to realize that Kang wasn't big enough, wasn't Thanos, and that there was only one character that could be that because he was that in the comics for decades and decades. We started talking about Doctor Doom even before we officially pivoted from Kang. In fact, I had started talking with Robert about this audacious idea before Ant-Man 3 even came out. All right, this is a fascinating quote. Again, I'm thinking on my feet here as I read this. He is basically trying to retcon the history of this with unprovable stuff. No one can say, well, I have an email from Kevin Feige where he brought up Doom replacing Kang and us pivoting away from Kang before the Jonathan Major stuff. So by saying this, he's essentially saying, well, we had plans to move on anyway. In case Jonathan wants to sue us for whatever, we had plans already. We were going to move on from him. He was not going to be as big as people say. And don't judge me in my decision-making process to have chosen Jonathan Majors and had him be this massive villain that he was going to be in the movies. No. We were already moving on from Jonathan Majors, so it wasn't that big of a deal. People are wrong for thinking that I cast him to be this massive big baddie and that we were going to stay the course with him. No, we were already thinking of moving on. We had already thought about Robert Downey Jr. In fact, I floated the idea ahead of time. That is some amazing retconning being done here from Kevin Feige. I don't believe a word of it. That is not the truth here on The Truth, in my opinion. That is not the truth. I don't think it's the truth. We had started with Kang wasn't big enough, wasn't Thanos. I mean, why would you even shoot a Council of Kangs shot if you didn't think he was big enough to do all this stuff? So I think this is utter nonsense. I think that's absolutely not true. But all right. Well, anyway, while Kang's future or lack of one in the MCU is obvious, Feige was far more circumspect about whether audiences can expect to see other A-list MCU cameos like Charlize Theron's Clea, Brett Goldstein's Hercules, Harry Styles' Star Fox, and Sacha Baron Cohen's Mephisto again in later projects. And he responded by saying, "Do you want to see them again?" Boo, 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 Feige asked playfully. When a reporter responded that the inclusion of those characters indicates a promise that they would return at some point, Feige brought up the return of Tim Blake Nelson's character, Samuel Stearns from 2008's The Incredible Hulk for 2025's Captain America Brave New World, and Rolf Saxon's character, William Donlow from 96 Mission Impossible for 2025's Mission Impossible, both The Final Reckoning and The Dead Reckoning Part 1. That is fun to me, so let's talk again in 12 years and see who comes back. They're all dead, people. They are not coming back. Let me just say this right now. None of those people. I mean, I don't know about Mephisto. I don't think he's. I don't think Clea. Yeah, I think it's very. I would say I'll rank this in order of possibility. Charlize Theron's Clea, absolutely. I think she has a real good opportunity to come back. Then everyone else. I don't think. I mean, Ironheart is essentially they treat it like a toss away show. Yeah, it's nice that people liked it. It's nice they got 80% or whatever by the critics and the fans, but the view numbers were not that great for Ironheart. And so why would you bring back Sacha Baron Cohen's Mephisto if you're the view from a show that wasn't that well received? I don't think it's going to happen. Brett Goldstein's Hercules, even less so. Harry Styles' Star Fox, even less so. So yeah, no, I don't think any of those people are coming back. I think they want to just move forward. What about major characters like Moon Knight or the Eternals? Would they return? I don't know, as Feige said. I don't know that it's any of the specific ones you just named, but yes, that is part of the planning. Oh, this is great. I mean, I just admire this as my man is just political as fuck here. Characters we've introduced post Endgame will pop up again in some of the upcoming movies and beyond. The fun of the comics is anyone popping up anywhere. Now, listen, some of you may defend this and say, well, he's not going to tell you if they're going to show up here or where. He's not going to show you where they're going to. Of course. But if he was excited about a character, he would not be like, well, do you want to see them? Or do you want to see them? Well, I don't know that it's any of the specific ones you just named, Moon Knight or Eternals. But yes, that is part of the characters we've introduced post Endgame is part of the plan to pop up again in some. That could mean any of the characters can pop up if it makes sense for the scripts they are writing. It's clear. I mean, we might see Moon Knight in Doomsday or Secret Wars, but I think it's clear he is laying the groundwork that he is going to be, and we've suspected this, that there's going to be a culling of all of these characters post Secret Wars, and it's going to happen possibly in Secret Wars. And maybe it doesn't mean that he kills them, but maybe they get banished to another Earth or another timeline. And so if they ever want to open the door to a multiversal thing, they can down the road. So they give themselves the option. But yeah, I mean, it seems very clear that he's setting you up, to understand that they're going to spend less money on these films and TV shows. The TV shows aren't going to be necessarily crossing over into the movies necessarily. They're going to pick and choose what characters and storylines cross over into the movies. They are going to still somewhat focus on DEI, but not really. They're going to use AI, and this situation here that they're not going to promise you that any of these characters are going to come back. Perhaps the most tantalizing moment in the interview came when a reporter asked Feige about how often Marvel plans to make films that focus on a single character like Shang-Chi rather than a giant team-up. And he said, we were talking about a structure of an upcoming post-Secret Wars movie that I won't name, but I will say, like Shang-Chi, it's getting back to what genre haven't we done and want to do, and how could this movie be that genre? We would focus on a singular storyline by embracing a certain genre we haven't seen in a while, Oh, let the internet speculation commence. Interesting. What? We were talking about a structure of an upcoming post-Secret Wars movie that I won't name, but I will say, like Shang-Chi, it's getting back to what genre haven't we done and want to do, and how could this movie be that genre? We would focus on a singular storyline by embracing a certain genre we haven't seen in a while. What do you guys think that is? What do you guys think that is? That is interesting. That sounds like Midnight Suns. That sounds like horror, right? That sounds like Midnight Suns. What Feige is watching and what his future looks like. Clad in a Fantastic Four hoodie and seated next to a giant $80 Galactus popcorn bucket. That is madness. Feige took time to herald the return of Marvel's first family to the MCU, part of Disney's acquisition of 20th Century Fox in 2019. They deserve to be A-listers, he said. There have been maybe good Fantastic Four movies or not so good Fantastic Four movies, but nothing that felt like we had really seen what they are capable of. None of them are good. Feige also teased that the 4 lead actors from the unreleased 1994 Fantastic Four film, executive produced by Roger Corman, all have cameos in the new movie. Oh, that's great. He was especially excited about the retro future aesthetic of the Fantastic Four and how the film embodies the company's efforts to make projects that aren't intimidating to casual Marvel fans. We always were planning, even before that became a talking point, to introduce them in their own world in which they are the only heroes, Feige said. It is a no homework required movie. It literally is not connected to anything we've made before. No homework required. There you go. So he's really trying to hammer that point home. One possible hint for where the MCU could go next also lies in Hollywood's past. Asked what he's been watching recently, Feige said he started watching classic films every night, mostly from the 1930s and 40s, like the noir thriller The Big Clock, a damn good noir thriller with Bray Milland and Charles Lawton, the legal drama Lawyer Man with William Powell, and the Western Dodge City, yes, with Errol Flynn and Olivia de Havilland. So, are we looking at noir thrillers? Are we looking at legal dramas? Are we looking at Westerns in the MCU? It's remembering what cinema is and what movie going is and what entertaining audiences is. Sorry, let me read that again. It's remembering what cinema is and what movie going audience. It's remembering what cinema is and what movie going is and what entertaining audiences is. Everything old is new again, by the way. That's another reason I watch those old movies. Brother, you and me? Absolutely. I do the same thing. I watched an old Western the other night with Steve McQueen that I had never seen, which I really enjoyed. Oh, damn it. What was the name of it? Oh, Jesus. Oh, man. What was it? It was like one of his last movies. Tom Horn. That's right. Tom Horn. Not a great movie, but it was good to watch an older movie, an older Western. As for his own future at Marvel, Mike Feige appears to be keeping his options open. Succession is a hot topic at the Disney company, he says, alluding to Iger's ever-impending departure as Disney CEO. We always talk about Succession, even within divisions, too, I think for that reason. Do I want to be making big movies for big audiences in 10 or 15 years from now? Yes, absolutely. That's all I want to do. Marvel's a great way to do that for me right now, but I hope to make big movies for lots of people forever. So, yeah, that is the article there. Oof, a lot, as I said, to consider, to think about. Certainly, I think he's very clear about the approach they're taking. He wants to make it clear that these are movies that what is going on here with Marvel. So I think that's what he's talking about, trying to set you up for what there's not a coincidence that he's doing this like on the weekend right before Fantastic Four comes out, but also to remind people, because Superman's doing so well, that Marvel is out there with a movie as well, that they are the big dog in town still, and they want to reclaim their yard. And I think that's what this interview does. It basically, he's trying to calm all the criticisms and all the fears. He's trying to retcon the Kang situation, the Jonathan Majors Kang situation, which I don't believe a word of, by the way. He's trying to talk to those people who are like, oh, I don't want to watch all these shows and watch the movies. Hey, it's okay. Just watch the movies. You don't have to watch the shows. What I like the shows. We've got shows too, but they're not necessarily going to tie into the MCU. You can watch them free and clear, or you can watch them and keep track of stuff. And so if they pop up in stuff later, you'll enjoy them being in the stuff later because you've done the homework and you figured it out. He's introduced AI. I think his DEI answers were disingenuous at best and also retconning, but he's got a business to run, and right now Trump's madhouse of an administration is looking to punish anybody who dares to care about people of color or women or LGBTQ or women rights rather, and or LGBT plus communities. And so they have to do what the business is. They're a big brand. I don't like it, but I understand why they're doing it. So he's doing that as well. He may have previewed Midnight Suns. He may be playing a little bit of a game about Miles Morales, putting an end date there for when they might be able to look at him again. But yeah, this was an interesting interview. Matt, how many Funko Pops? That's all of them. That's all of them, buddy. That's all of them that you see there. That's all my Funko Pops, buddy. But yeah, this is something that is fascinating to consider. So yeah, I think it was a good interview. I think you didn't get much out of this other than teasing stuff that's coming and trying to calm fears that people have had about Disney and Marvel, and trying to speak to some of the criticisms, both warranted and unwarranted in the anti-woke side of things, and trying to get people back inside the tent. And I think he has kind of opened the door to that. So we will see if that ends up being the way it all goes down. What did he say about Blade? Did I miss that? I don't know if did I miss that? Him saying anything about Blade? Yeah, I don't know that I must have missed. Here we go. I must have missed anything because he mentions Blade. Sorry, let me see. Yeah. I thought I don't think he mentioned. Okay. Status of Blade. This was when? Oh, today as well. Okay. So he addressed Blade. Let's look at this. And I know we got to go. So let's look at Blade real quick. Oh yeah. Let me take this down and put myself over here. All right. He said, despite numerous false starts, Mahershala Ali's debut as a vampire slaying Blade is still in the works, says Marvel Studios chief. Now, this is July 20th, 2025, today at 12:01, so 49 minutes ago. Mahershala Ali is still attached, Feige told a room full of journalists. The obstacle was Ryan Coogler called and said, we'd love to do costumes for Sinners. He joked, referring to costumes created by Ruthie Carter for Abandoned Blade film that Marvel commissioned, then sold back to Carter for Coogler's vampire film. And we said, take him, man, no problem. He's a good friend. Take our costumes. We'll hold off on the movie. Wow. In all seriousness, though, Feige said, explained the prolonged delays on Blade were a symptom of Marvel's, quote, overexpansion. How the executive characterizes the studio's response to Disney's mandate to produce more content at the onset of the Disney Plus streaming service. Feige hesitated to use a, quote, dramatic term like fallout to characterize the resulting situation. But for the first time ever, quantity trumped quality, he said. We talked about that. So these are all the same quotes. So is Marvel, the Blade. We didn't want to simply just put a leather outfit on him and have him start killing vampires. It had to be unique. It fell into the time when we started pulling back and saying only accept insanely great, and it wasn't insanely great at the time. So clearly the last few stuff they didn't feel was insanely great. They just had to get it out. It seems very clear that's what he's saying. We didn't feel like, as we often do, you can have a good script and make it a great script through production. We didn't feel confident that we could do that on Blade. And we didn't want to do that to Mahershala and didn't want to do that to us. There's currently no director attached. Ali insists he's still game. Call Marvel. Right. I covered that on one of my shorts when asked when Blade could start production. I'm ready. Let them know I'm ready. Several screenwriters have also been announced. And Feige says, there have been 3 or 4 iterations of the Blade story, 2 of which were period pieces, but we've landed on modern day, Feige confirmed, which is why we could give those costumes back to Ruth, and that's what we're focusing on. So it'll be a modern day Blade. Feige said Coogler is not in the running to helm the Blade picture and seemed surprised that anyone was pushing for that to happen. The filmmaker has Black Panther 3 to focus on. He says, what we know when on the timeline it is, and if he's telling you he doesn't, that's perfect, Feige said. So after all this, does Feige regret announcing the project during Hall H? Only in hindsight I do, but I don't, because that's the way we'd announce everything before like that and had not delivered. Then he pointed to a tremendous amount of curveballs the studio faced between 2019 and today, and I think that's fair. COVID and all of that, strike delays and all of that, as well as Marvel-specific tribulations like Friends and Stars dying and storylines shifting, because people didn't respond to them the way we wanted. And then with Kang, actors Jonathan Majors falling out of our ability to use them. So there you go. I think that's everything, right? That he spoke about. I don't want to miss anything. Yeah. All right. There you go. So, all right. At least we covered Blade. I wanted to cover Blade as well. So we got the Blade situation squared away. So that's everything there that was in these articles from Kevin, in this article from Kevin. And so I think even though I was responding to it in real time, I think I've pretty much nailed how I feel about this. And maybe there'll be more nuance to it. If Jeff and I do a show tomorrow, I'm sure we're going to break this article down and the things he said a little bit more deeply. But yeah. All right, let's get to the questions. Thank you to everybody who's with us. 385 people still hanging out. Almost 400 of you. Almost 400 of you still hanging out with me. Thanks so much. I got to get through these questions and get on out of here because I got to get some lunch. I have been on this for almost 3 hours now, and I appreciate hanging out on Sunday with you all. But this boy has got to rest. I took 3 vaccines on Friday for pneumonia, COVID, and for shingles, and I have been a wreck all Friday and Saturday. And today's the first day I felt kind of semi-decent, but now I'm starting to get a little run down. So I want to get through these questions quickly and send them in. If you haven't sent them in, I will answer every single one of them. So, and I will take my thing down so we just see the questions. All right, let's get to it. Here we go. All right, Wiley Todd. Hey, John, I'm a big fan of George Clooney. Do you have any recommendations for underrated or underseen movies of his? Thanks. Ooh, that's a great question. Let me see. I guess I would say Michael Clayton, even though a lot of people like that movie, it doesn't, like, people don't bring that movie up too often. Good Night, Good Luck, which he based his play on. I think Ides of March is effing incredible. If you haven't seen that, that's Ryan Gosling, Evan Rachel Wood, and Clooney in that film, and he's a pretty brutal guy in that film. I think Money Monster was excellent with him and Julia Roberts and Jack O'Connell before you saw Jack in Sinners. Yeah, you can skip Tomorrowland. You can skip Monuments Men. Gravity, he's damn good in Gravity. Descendants, if you haven't seen Descendants, man, that is excellent. The American, no one talks about The American, and The American is excellent. That is one of those films I saw in 2010. I was trying to tell everybody to go see that movie. It's an international film, but he plays an American assassin who is assigned to take care of a situation and then discovers complications. So I highly recommend that one if you haven't seen that one. Yeah, no Leatherheads. You're not missing anything out on that. Syriana, if you haven't seen Syriana, that to me is still his greatest work as an actor. Syria, he won the Oscar for that, and he's excellent at Syriana. Solaris is a good remake of the Russian original film from the 1970s. Him and Natasha McElhone is devastating, that film. Oh, what the hell? Oh, I guess I must have turned on Siri in some way. But yeah, those are the ones I would recommend to you, Wiley. So take a look at those, if any of those speak to you. KJ says, Rock is great, but thank God Rock did not take over DC. If The Rock was the head of DC, he would be driving the Batmobile, dating Wonder Woman, teaching Aquaman how to swim, and Superman how to fly. 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%, my guy. You are absolutely correct with that. Absolutely correct with that. So true. Yeah, because remember, he wanted to retcon the situation so he'd be the main person in the Shazam story and then become a main person in the DC. Like everything would revolve around Black Adam, that's a level of nonsense ego that I just do not get. Daniel San says, crazy people want Henry for Batman, but he's done with DC after everything that happened. It's not James Gunn's fault. It's a Warner Brothers issue. Yeah, but it's different people in charge of Warner Brothers now, right? And James Gunn and Peter Safran weren't the ones that fucked him over. That was essentially The Rock and Jean Colette Serra with Abdi and DeLuca's help. Those are the people. And maybe Zaslav too, because as I said, if Zaslav approved it, which I think he did, so maybe he wouldn't come back. But maybe, I think, time heals all wounds. Time heals all wounds. Look at all the Star Wars people that might be coming back. Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac. Time heals all wounds, and actors need to work. You can sit on your I'm hurt by what you did mountain all you want. Actors need to work. Actors need to pay bills. Actors need to make money. Hurt feelings, fuck hurt feelings. They care about money and working and being in prominence. Because if you're in bigger projects, you can demand bigger paychecks. That's how it works. Guys, please stop thinking that these creatives are in some fantasy world of like, I only make great art. Come on, man. KJ said, are you a steelbook collector? Your favorite steelbook? Mine is Superman 78 steelbook. No, I don't collect steelbooks, brother. I don't think that's that big of a deal. I like the Platoon one that I saw recently. The Magnificent Seven one is a pretty cool steelbook. I saw the True Romance one. That is one that I would probably buy because I saw that on Shout. It's on Shout in 4K. That's an excellent steelbook. So yeah. Amish says, there was an interview where Affleck said he didn't want anything to do with Gunn's universe. Seemed like he was upset Gunn and Safran mentioned him in their initial interview where they took over the DCU. Yeah, sure. But, it seemed like that, right? So you don't know if he actually felt that way. You're just analyzing and sensing that he felt that way. But he said he didn't want anything to do with Gunn. But that doesn't mean that if this thing becomes a success, the doors don't open up. And it doesn't mean he went and saw Superman and was like, shit, this might be a fun universe to be in. So you never know, bud. Everyone says things and then certain stuff happens and then you change your mind. That's humanity. Edith Mahmood said Oliver Jackson Cohen is Batman. I don't know. Let me see. Oliver Jackson Cohen? Yeah, I'm running out of steam. I can tell. Sorry, guys. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen. Oh, Invisible Man. Oh, he was the mean dude, Invisible Man. Nah. I could never forgive him for Invisible Man. Tried to kill Elizabeth Moss, you son of a bitch. Fantastic 314. The DCEU will be equally dark as it is light. Yeah, it seems like that's the approach. Sure. Eddie Ladia says, have you seen Eddington? Last 15 minutes unraveled, in my opinion. Yeah, that's why I haven't seen it. I haven't heard great reviews. Very mixed, but I will see it this week at some point. I have to treat myself to movies this week, so I will go see that this week. Eddie Ladia also says, Megan Fahey, she gives Linda Carter vibes. Megan Fahey. Sorry, guys, I don't know every actor. One Life to Live from Broadway. The Bold Type, never heard of that. Yeah, I don't know this person. Yeah, I don't watch White Lotus, so I don't know her. I didn't watch Sirens. Yeah, I don't know her. So, the show. Sorry. Yeah, no, I haven't never seen her, so I can't opine one way or the other. But from the look, I don't know if I see it. Cowboys fan 92. Hey, John, as a creative myself, I too have this backbone as a kid with disabilities, growing up being bullied as a kid back in the 90s and early 2000s. Yeah, I think a lot of creatives were bullied. A lot of creatives were ridiculed and made fun of and hurt. And so that's a big part of who they are and why they create the art that they create and why they try to reach people who are in the same situations and help them. I am Two Fly Cams just got here. Superman will top 625, and that's good enough for now. WB is having a great year. What do you think is the mystery show Gunn is announcing? Oh, I don't know. And I do think people have guessed it already. I just think he's trying to say no one's guessed it. And then someone's going to pop and go, I said this 2 years ago. So I don't know what the mystery show is that Gunn is announcing. I don't. Maybe I'll think about it more. But thank you, I'm Two Fly Cam. We'll see if it hits 625. We'll see. Certainly looks good right now. Cowboys fan 92. By the way, I told you three on the live Geek Buddy show that I saw the Superman touching the 25 million plus mark. I don't know what that means. 25 million plus mark. Yet, okay. They've made more than 25 million. So again, I'm just wondering what you mean by that. True Boss, Cavill for Captain Atom, Sergeant Rock, or Orion is dope. I think Orion, I don't know about Sergeant Rock. Captain Atom could be real interesting. I think that's, I like the Captain Atom suggestion, True Boss. Fantastic 314 says, I want to see the actors yelling at the exec who approve these ridiculous interviewers making dumb statements or asking idiotic questions. Yeah, that would be a fun way to promote the movie, is the actors yelling at the publicists for them bringing in these people to do this. Samir says, Rocha, you're appreciated, brother, for all you do. Thank you, Samir. I appreciate that. Good picture there of Gunn and Snyder. I love that. Draws Walker, thank you for putting that extra time for us. Thank you, Draws. I appreciate the support, brother, man. Izzy98, keep going, Rocha. I'm so ready for Fantastic Four. Been avoiding all the clips coming out. Really want to get all the surprises firsthand in the theater. Yeah, I would agree with you, Izzy. Don't watch any more trailers. If I were you, I'd block Fantastic Four on social media as a hashtag, so you don't see any of the pictures. People are releasing pictures of these people in the film already, which is ruining the look of them. Why would you do this? So Brian Brawler says, Rocha behavior, sir. Remember what we talked about. I don't know. I don't know what Brian's talking about. He talks about so many things. Well, he's one of my patrons on my Patreon, which you can join Patreon.com/John Rocha says. We do hangouts every Sunday at 5 p.m. PT. Yeah, so Preston talks about a lot of things. Alan Smithy, Feige supports classic film. I feel the love. Hell yeah, that's nice to see him say that. I agree, Smithy. That was a sweet thing for him to say, because classic film, people seem to be forgetting it, and it needs to be remembered. All right, let's hit these Streamlabs. Cat in LA. Happy Sunday. Would love to hear your take on the Stephen Colbert situation. Well, it popped up during the hot mic, and I don't think I had a full grasp of what was going on. Now I would tell you that I think it's terrible. I think it's absolutely political retribution. Yes, was the show losing money? Sure, but it was the #1 show in late night. All statistics and ad dollars prove that. So if the other ones aren't being canceled, why is this one, the first one, being canceled 2 days after he attacked CBS for bending the knee and kissing the ass of Trump? So to me, the timing of it, even if it's not related, it's phenomenally stupid, the timing of it. And so they deserve to get raked over the coals. They deserve to have the credibility question. They deserve to get yanked all over the place. Jimmy Kimmel, all these people deserve to ridicule them for CBS for what they did. And I do think CBS is absolutely capitulating through David Ellison. And I love that Writers Guild has launched an investigation of this. Fuck yeah. Subpoena all their text messages, subpoena all their emails. David Ellison, Sherry Redstone, everybody involved in this merger. If you can get the California Attorney General to subpoena all their shit so that we can get access to it in a public forum and see what was really going on behind the scenes, I'd be down with it. But they would appeal this all the way to the Supreme Court, and the conservative judges would vote in favor of the merger or in favor of their company so that they don't have to reveal this shit. But it should be revealed. So I'm glad that they're at least wanting to sue them. Samo says, thoughts on Eddington if you've seen it yet? I haven't, Samo. I will go this week. I promise. Fantastic says, Rocha is the real deal. Oh, thanks, Fred. I've always believed this in what I taught my sons. Accept it or change it. The things you like, accept, and the things you don't. Oh, sorry. I've always believed this in what I taught my sons. Accept it or change it. The things you like, accept, and the things you don't, change. You were one of the 3 I stayed with since the Collider Purge, and I have no regrets. Oh, thanks, Fred. I appreciate that, man. Thank you, man. I can't hear that enough, to be honest with you, so it's very kind of you to say that. Tim says, Spider-Man Brand New Day opens just 2 weeks after the Odyssey. I don't see how BND sticks with that date. I agree. I'm sure Nolan and IMAX wants to keep IMAX window as long as possible with the demand for IMAX. Brand New Day is also filming a digital IMAX. Can we expect BND to be? Yes, I think it gets pushed. There's no way they were selling tickets a year out to push the release date. No way. I think this was a power move by Nolan and basically solidifying and seeing and telling Warner Brothers, we are putting this film out on this date, and we're going to sell the tickets a year ahead of time so that you and I and everybody else understands that this is when the date is. Fuck Marvel, have them move. And I think that's what Nolan did, because Marvel's weak right now. Marvel is like The Godfather, right? Sollozzo, what does Sollozzo tell Hagen? He says, could I have shot The Godfather? Could I have gotten The Godfather like this 10 years ago? No. Why? Because The Godfather is slipping. And if Michael hadn't come in to save The Godfather, the Corleone empire would have absolutely crumbled into dust. And I think the same thing here. Glimmercast. What's up, Glimmercast? Honest take. Was Blade ever really part of the MCU plan or just a favor to Mahershala Ali with no real intention to follow through once the multiverse saga took priority? No, I think it was always a part of the MCU plan, especially because they announced it 6 years ago. So I think they always had the intention of having to be a part of it. Now things have changed so much, but he's still clear that he wants Mahershala to do it. Mahershala says he wants to do it. So now it's a matter. I think they just need to get through this situation with Secret Wars and Endgame, or sorry, Doomsday and Secret Wars, and then move forward. Now you might see him pop up in Doomsday, you might see him pop up in Secret Wars, and then they'll go forward with it. I thoroughly believe the Midnight Suns are going to be formed in Secret Wars. So I think it's very possible to see all of that finally come to fruition. All right, that's everything. Thank you all so much for the Streamlabs Super Chats. I appreciate, that support is so essential to what we do here on the John Rocha channel, soon to be John Rocha channel. If you're watching this later, please make sure you hit a like. If you watch this later and you want to send support, please make sure you hit the thanks button and send in support for us. No matter what amount, it helps keep things going, keep the lights on, or whatever you hear for the soon to be John Rocha channel. So appreciate your love and support. Thanks to the 400 of you who watched for a majority of this entire long ass show, which I didn't expect to go this long. You guys are amazing. And I'm always humbled that so many of you want to hang out with me as I talk about this stuff. So thank you. Don't forget, we got Hot Mic tomorrow, possibly. I'm on Christian Show tomorrow as well. We've got Geek Buddies. We'll have hopefully a Jedi Way this week as well. And Comic-Con coverage all week coming up. And then I might go down for a day. And the Geek Buddies and I will be seeing Fantastic Four on Friday. I will be seeing it solo tomorrow night. So look for my out-of-theater reaction tomorrow night as well. All right. Thanks, everybody. Subscribe to the channel. Hit a like on this video. Leave all your comments down below. And don't forget, we're also available in podcast form. As I do more and more of these shows, I'm putting the audios up on the podcast feed it's still the Outlaw Nation for now, but it will change over. So would love it if you guys go and subscribe to that podcast feed as well, so you hear all the content we do here on the channel. All right. You're the best. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Remember what I say at the end of every one of these shows. Whatever you need to do to get through the next second, next minute, next hour, next day, next week, next month, next year, do it. Please do it. You have value. You have worth. People love you. And you've gone through the tough time. You are undefeated getting through the tough times. So you can get through this one because you're undefeated. All right. I love you. I'll talk to you next time with a brand new episode of The Truth. Peace. Until then, I love you.